The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Falco,
Here.
we have a physical quorum.
Councilmember Henderson will be arriving momentarily, and Councilmember Vieira is stuck in traffic. He'll be arriving any minute. May I have a motion to open all the public hearings? Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're going to start with item number 1. This is before we go to the housekeeping. Who's here for item number 1? Oh, there we go. Kayon.
Good evening, Kayon Henderson, Housing and Community Development Director. We have a PowerPoint that we will like to present. So before us this year, we have our action plan, which we come before council every year. We have to have 2 public hearings. And so we go over what the funds are, what we've gotten for this upcoming fiscal year between federal and some state, and then just go over the projects that we plan to actually fund. So the purpose of this action plan, every year, again, we always come forward with the con plan every 5 years. The action plan is every year. And so what we're looking at are all the federal funds, how they'll be used. And so our CDBG, which is our Community Development Block Grant, ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant, HOPWA, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS and HIV, and then our Home Investment Partnership are the 4 grants that we're really going to dive into today. The Community Development Grant, the CDBG grant, really, I always say it's the most flexible, but probably the hardest to spend just because there's not as many strict guidelines for that. So it does come with some regulations as how much can be used for public services or how much can be used for public facilities, but we cannot use this grant to build is the only thing. Our ESG is for those who are homeless. We're looking to do either rapid rehousing, and so quickly getting those who are in shelter, out of shelter, and into a permanent safe space. And then the other thing that we can fund with this are shelter and just help with shelter operations. So that's our smallest grant, even though we know that we are having an increase in homeless individuals, but we continue to leverage other funds, which we will bring back on the second public hearing. Our HOPWA grant, that is the only grant that we oversee. That's not just for the city of Tampa. We actually oversee this grant for 4 counties. So when I go, it will show that it's the largest amount that we get, but we do oversee it for Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas, and Hernando. And then our Home Investment Partnership, the home program also, as a result of only getting about $280,000 earmarked for our homeless population, we do take some of these funds to leverage that grant, and so we use about $600,000 to do vouchers. Some of the priority needs that we have that we set forward when we did our RFP and we're looking to do the action plan, we wanted to make sure that we could get some more new construction and rental assistance, and so that was by way of doing an RFP to say we're looking for those who can rehab or do new construction with multifamily. Supportive housing operations, as we have a lot of the individuals, not only do we want to get them housed, but we want to make sure that we can keep them permanently housed. And so we want to make sure that we have some support system around them from various programs. And then the public facility really is, one example would probably be the Skill Center, where we were able to step in and assist with CDBG dollars that help with public facilities to make sure that people can indeed get those services. Special economic development, we know that we're going to work and try to fund a special economic development, but we have not yet released that RFP. And so we're looking to help with job creation and also trying to take some steps as if it's a food desert, how can we kind of jump in and help with that? So we know we're going to work on it, just don't have a plan yet. So this is what we have right now as far as the funding allocation. So we get about $3 million for CDBG. Home is 1.5, HOPWA 5.3, but again, that is for 4 counties and it's very specific. You have to have HIV or AIDS to receive that one. And then our SHIP funding, which is about $3 million. So this year between state and federal, we'll get about $13.2 million, which is actually a reduction. Last year we got about 15.1. So we have lost about $1.9 million roughly. The analysis to impediment for fair housing, that's a new rule that has to go through. Luckily, we have one that is existing. At the next time, I think in the next 2 years, we'll have to redo our impediment to fair housing. And it really is just making sure that as we have all these programs, we continue to restrict and ensure everybody's in compliance if they're going to get any of our funds with given fair housing. So this is a calendar of the events so far, and so we did release our RFA in April. You'll see it only has CDBG for public service, public facilities, and economic development. Although I went over other federal grants, those grant agreements are 3-year agreements, so they did not make it to the RFP, but they're still part of our plan. We did technical assistance virtual workshops with those who are interested, and we also did some in person. For those who are interested in the grant, they've seen the RFP. We allowed, after the RFP was released and we had the technical assistance, just to have the applicants or potential applicants submit questions where we could then clarify anything that they were looking at. And then we had proposal review and recommendation by the reviewers who came to look at the application, and now we're here for the first public hearing. We will come back June 27th, where we'll come for the second public hearing and open up the 30-day comment period. This plan that we're going over has to be submitted to HUD by August 15th so that we can start the fiscal year for October 1st. This was just on our webpage, one of the ways we advertise. We did put it in the newspaper also, and then shared it with a lot of the local nonprofits that we work with. We also had citizen participation meetings. We had 4 meetings at Hannah in the community room, and it really is just to address some of what we have. We take a survey to ask what the individuals in the community think are the priority needs. Unfortunately, while we had 4, nobody attended any of the 4, but we still have the survey available. Should anybody be interested, they can reach out and at least still have their input. The public comments and feedback really is going to be on priority to what's housing and community development, what we're looking at as the priorities right now, really, which is to have more units available to the population that we serve. And so this was the point of the survey, and to have those public meetings so that we can get that input and not only just continue doing the same thing, but get what the public is looking. This is probably very hard to read, but this is a copy of the survey. But again, I can email and leave copies of the survey for anybody who's interested. And that
Councilmember
is.
Thank you. Great presentation. I was wondering, just because you said that no one was able to, no one attended those meetings, if you had considered maybe going out into the public at maybe some community centers?
We've done, yeah, we're open to that. We did that last year because I think that was a comment last year from just getting feedback from the public. And so we tried that last year, and what we did was try to go to different areas of the city. Unfortunately, nobody showed up to that yet. So I think it might just be an advertising thing. So we still get surveys, but usually the meetings, we hold them between 6 and 8 p.m. And so I think it's late, but we're open. If there's a site that you'd like us to schedule one for, happy to do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that further explanation.
Yeah.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you. I know it's been a long process of you and your colleagues leading through lots of changes and trying to find more and more effective process here. So thank you for all that. And also want to ask you, though, with all your expertise, what are the outcome measures we should be looking for? Or are there outcome measures that you would challenge us with? It seems like as I look across other cities, they all measure it by the dollar amount they're putting in or by the number of programs or something like that. And I wonder if is there some other measure, like if you measured by the number of people affected, you could easily increase the number by giving a small amount to a lot of people, right? Or you can have a very deep impact on a few people. What's the best way to measure the outcome of this to make sure that it's effective?
So I think it just depends on the program. For some of the programs, we could help a lot of people because it doesn't need that impact. It's a quick service that they're coming in for. For some of our programs that are homeless programs, we fund at a higher amount, but really, we help less people because we have, it's an intensive case management for that. And so it just depends on the program. We do have performance measures for all the programs, but they slightly different in how we look at it.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item, item number 1? I see nobody. Do we make a motion to close? We still have to revisit this, so.
We'll come back on the 27th.
So we'll leave it open because there's still a continuation.
It's another hearing, correct, yeah.
Close, motion to close? Motion to close from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And if we could announce the date, time, and place of the next hearing?
That will be June 27th, and it will be here, I think, at
5:01
5:01 PM, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Magic. All right, we're gonna do some housekeeping. Let's go over the agenda. Yes, sir?
All right, Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Good evening, council members. We have 2 quick housekeeping items. The first is agenda item number 13, REZ 2441. The applicant has requested a continuance to the August 8th public hearing.
Can I get a motion to continue? We have a motion to continue item number 13 to August 8, 2024, 5:01 PM here in City Council Chambers, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor of the continuance? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Yes, sir?
Then lastly, agenda item number 3 will be heard after agenda items 6 and 7.
Okay, so we're gonna hear item number 3 after 6 and 7, which are gonna be heard together because we have to hear 6 and 7 before we can take up item number 3, if we take up item number 3. All right, these are quasi judicial public hearings. If you're gonna speak on any of the items this evening, please stand, raise your right hand, and we will swear you in. If you're gonna be speaking on anything this evening, please stand. Yes, thank you.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Thank you very much. We're gonna start with item number 2.
Thank you so much, Chairman and Council. LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. And Council, item number 2 is REZ 2337. This is for the property located at 7105, 7109, and 7111 Kissimmee Street, and Folios 138-665.40 and 138-666.40. The applicant is represented by Steve Michelini. This is a request to rezone the property from CG Commercial General, IG Industrial General, and RS 50 Residential Single Family to PD Plan Development for residential, single-family, attached, and detached uses on site. And just to give a quick background as to how we are here today, this application was heard before City Council on March 21st. At that hearing, a continuance was granted, and that continuance was to allow the applicant time to meet with the community and to redesign the site. So since that time, the applicant has redesigned the site and made amendments to the design. And the site plan you have before you is that amended site plan. The following changes were made to that site plan since this continuance was granted. There has been an elimination of a unit that contained 4 units. There was one building that contained 4 units that has been eliminated, and a single-family residential detached unit has been replaced with that unit. They have eliminated 2 natural resources waivers, and those waivers were pertaining to use buffers, and this is the buffer to the north and the landscape buffer to the west. They've also removed the solid waste dumpster, which was located on the east at the entry of the site. Through coordination with the solid waste staff, the applicant had a review, and since the number of units were reduced, that eliminated the need for a dumpster. So there's no longer a dumpster on site. And then the last change to the site was they are providing 7 surface parking spaces for visitor parking. They are overparked, and I will present that to you later. But I believe, and the applicant will explain further, it was at the request of the community. So with that, I just wanted to give a brief background on this request. I'll turn it over to Jennifer to give her report, and I'll come back and give my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. I believe we gave you a report on this case back in March. Our finding has changed. Based on the revisions, we have found the site plan before you tonight consistent with the comprehensive plan. So the applicant has addressed all of our concerns with their revised site plan that's before you. So I won't go too much into detail about where it is, because you're probably aware, but it's in South Tampa. It is in the coastal high hazard area, but this is a transitioning area. There's some industrial, like some open storage uses, but a lot of residential uses. So the future land use map, it has a community mixed use 35 future land use, that's the pink, as well as a light industrial future land use. The applicant is not putting any dwelling units in the industrial future land use, consistent with the comprehensive plan. So this is not used for any dwelling units. We also have some residential 20 and some residential 35 and some residential 10 in the area. But as you can see, it's a mixture of industrial and some commercial future land uses. So, bear with me. We did find that, as you all know, the comprehensive plan does encourage infill development, and what is proposed through this development is helping to ensure that there's an adequate amount of land for Tampa's growing population. We found that the redesign supported the comp plan by providing orientation of the front door to a neighborhood sidewalk or street and a safe pedestrian connection to that sidewalk or street. So with that, we found it consistent. Again, the applicant has addressed our concerns, and thus we're before you tonight with a consistency finding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you again, Council LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. So with this rezoning request, REZ 2337, it will allow for a total of 7 units on site. The site contains 26,284 square feet. The maximum building height allowed is 40 feet. The setbacks proposed are to the north 7 feet, south 15 feet, to the west 25 feet, and to the east 8 feet. A total of 16 parking spaces are required and 21 spaces are provided on site. And this is the site plan submitted that you have before you. This is the site that's on Kissimmee. There's only one point of access, and that's on Kissimmee. This is the boundary of the property here, and I have a close-up of the site. And so this is Kissimmee Street. This is the entrance to the site. So this is the location of the single-family residential detached unit, identified as unit number 7 on the site plan. This is where previously there were 4 units, and then there are 6 units that are located on this side of the site. Units 2 through 6 have front door orientation to the side yard, and a waiver has been requested for that standard. Unit 1 and Unit 7, the single-family detached, have front door orientation to the east on Kissimmee Street. So they have connection and connectivity to the sidewalk that is on Kissimmee. The surface spaces are located here on the site. And you can see the site has been designed to provide protection to the existing tree that is on site in the southwest portion of the site. And so here are the elevations that are provided. So this is the south elevation, and this is the north elevation for those units. And the east elevation is located here, and then this is the west elevation. This is the south elevation for that single-family residential, and then that is the north elevation. And just quickly, I'll show you the zoning atlas for the area. This is the site, which is outlined in red. This is Kissimmee. This is Ingram Street. This is Commerce Street. So you can see the zoning of the CG Commercial General. The Industrial General is to the north and northwest of the site, and that is running along Commerce Street. You have a mixture of commercial and industrial uses along Commerce. On the east side of Kissimmee, on northwest of the site, you have commercial general zoning. The uses on the east side of Kissimmee at this location at Commerce Street contain residential multifamily uses. From Commerce Street down to Ingram, the majority of the uses are residential multifamily. To the east, you have RM24 zoning, and the use is consistent with that with residential multifamily zoning. As you approach the corner at the southeast, that is where you have the residential single-family detached. Along Ingram, you have commercial general zoning, and further south and east, you have residential single-family, RS50 zoning. And then I have pictures of the site. Let me zoom out just a little bit. So this is the site on Kissimmee. This is another view of the site. This is north of the site on Commerce. This is north of the site. That's on Kissimmee, and that's looking west towards Commerce. This is north of the site. That's on Kissimmee, if you're looking west. This is northeast of the site, so this is at the corner of Longman. This is east of the site. This is directly across from the site. Some of the residential multifamily, which is the same use, which is further north of the site. This is southeast of the site. That's the single-family residential as you approach the corner. This is at the southeast corner, residential multifamily. So this is the site, and this is if you're looking south on Kissimmee. The site is off to the right. This is on Ingram, and this is on the west side of the parcel. There is an alley, it's unimproved. This is the view if you're looking from Ingram to that alley behind the site. This is the view of that alley if you're looking from Commerce, looking south to the site. It's all wooded, so out on site it is unimproved. And staff has reviewed the request, finds the request consistent. There are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Yes, Councilmember Hertag.
Thank you. Could you put the site plan back up?
Yes. I'll give a close-up.
I just had a question why the extra driveway to nowhere.
So this was provided, so the driveway you would enter here, and then this is a turnaround provided. Fire department needs a turnaround.
Ah, okay.
So that's the reason for the
Okay.
distance in that length.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And I just wanted to apologize for coming in late. It took me like 50 minutes to get here from West Shore, so I apologize. Thank you. I know.
Should have taken light rail.
You should know somebody that could do something about that.
Okay. I'll leave
All right.
that.
Yes, sir. Please say your name.
Phelps, you can go.
15 minutes from West Shore.
Good evening, Council. Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. We've worked on this site very closely with the Neighborhood Association, and we've had several meetings with them. And, let me just jump right to one of the issues that we were trying to resolve. Apparently, the previous owner of this property had committed to the property owner here, which is a single-family residence, that this would be a single-family house. And we had no knowledge of that whatsoever. So we eliminated the request for the townhouses over here, and we replaced it with a single-family house. And we also increased the setback from 7, which would be normal, to 15 feet. And that was done at the request of the homeowner that resides here. We also added additional property so that we have almost 9,000 square feet of green space. So this is kind of a park-like setting, and this is shallow. And they asked for additional parking, which exceeds the city requirement, but they wanted additional parking to make sure that people weren't going to be parking out on Kissimmee. And I can show you why. Because the other side of Kissimmee has all these apartments, and they have limited parking. And so they didn't want to exacerbate the issue regarding parking. This site on the north side is buffered by, or adjoins multifamily and commercial zoning. So we had some very interesting challenges on how to make this work. And then as LaShawn pointed out, normally we wouldn't have such a large driveway and a turnaround, except that the fire department requested it, and so we obviously, there's no waivers allowed for the fire department and life safety. But we're really proud of this site and having worked with the neighborhood group. I can go through all of the different criteria for you, but we're exceeding the parking, exceeding the green space. We have the connectivity that they wanted, and it's kind of an interesting thing that happened is that they want a vehicular use buffer here for the, but there's nothing here. It's industrial land, and it's our driveway. So, but it's included as a request for a waiver. We reduced the number of units. The 17 units could be allowed there, and we're requesting 7. So there's 10 units of density that normally could be requested, and we've eliminated them. And again, we've had several meetings, and quite honestly, we went out to the site and met with the homeowner adjacent on the south side. And she said, look, I mean, they promised us it was going to be a single family. They took a picture, but apparently there was a rendering that was posted on the site. And we said, oh my God, we had no idea. And so we revised the plans and provided a single family residence adjacent to her. We're very happy that we've been found consistent by all the departments and the Planning Commission. We've met with them. We've endeavored to remove the objections from both city staff and the concerns that the Planning Commission had. And that was all through working very closely with those departments and the neighborhood. I think we've got a much better plan. I think we've got a very nice plan here that I think you'll find that the neighbors are supporting. We have an email from them indicating that they were supporting the site plan as revised. The plan recognizes the unique conditions, and the design allows for flexibility and promotes its planning diversification and integration of uses. It takes an unusable land that has different land use classifications. It has a RS50 zoning, an IG zoning, and a general commercial zoning, and we've converted that all to residential. It encourages flexible development and reduces transportation needs, so we have the connections that were required on the Kissimmee. Kissimmee is sort of a very busy street, and we've internalized the connection so that it takes the traffic off of that. The applicant proposes 7 units, and again, as I said, 17 would be allowed by the land use designation. We've removed the dumpster, which was a problem, and that originally was out near the front, which solid waste had required, and we've moved that internally to the site, so it's no longer on the exterior. It's on the interior of the lot. The design of the proposed developments are unique, and the waivers that we're requesting are minimal, and they do meet, and they're consistent with the code and the comprehensive plan. It allows substantial justice and will not interfere or injure the rights of others. We've moved all of the utility accesses that are required to the interior of the site so that no other surrounding property owner is affected. The waiver is in harmony with the general intent and purposes of the chapter, and the Planning Commission has already indicated to you, as well as city staff, that it's consistent. Allowing the waiver will result in substantial justice. It will allow a very sensitive project to move forward, which has reduced the density, provided a single-family residence as requested by the adjacent property owner, and also allows for the townhouses that are proposed on the north side that will abut a general commercial area and a multifamily development that already exists. We will be consistent, and we will amend the plan to adjust the requests from the city staff regarding the changes in the site plan and notations that they've requested, should we be successful between first and second reading. The site is CMU 35, as they've indicated, which is 35 units the acre. 17 units would be allowed. We're requesting the 7. We're in with a commercial use corridor. We meet with planning goals and objectives of policies of the Tampa Concept Plan, public realm. I'm not going to read all of them, but would request that those be received and filed to be part of the record. Land development regulations, land use objectives, overall residential development and redevelopment objectives, multifamily residential areas, adequate sites to accommodate housing needs. As the city staff has indicated in the Planning Commission, we've developed an adaptive plan here that meets all of those criteria, and they found it to be consistent. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. We've spent a lot of time and we've gone to great lengths to try to accommodate all of the issues and the comments that were made by both the staff and the adjacent property owners.
Any questions? Nope. Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 2? Okay. Yes, ma'am, please state your name.
Hi, good evening, Stephanie Pointer. We are going to support this project. The abutting neighbor, Mr. McElhaney's applicant, did a boatload of pacification. Yes, the additional parking is needed on their property because they have so much on the street parking now. They really do need it. And they have HART buses. It says in the staff report, in the initial staff report, that there's not a bus that runs down there, but there absolutely is. It's one of the small HART buses, and it can barely get through there most of the time because they have so much on the street parking. So the additional parking is a good thing. But we went from 11 units to 7, and the change to a single-family home at the abutting neighbor is a big change. And so we had probably a half a dozen folks meet one time and maybe closer to a dozen the second time. And they agreed. Yeah, they all run together for me. But anyway, but the bottom line is that the neighbors want to support this because honestly, I don't know what business would go in there. This property abuts one of the 10 top oldest buildings in the city. I'd love to see something that looks a little bit more like one of the 10 oldest buildings in the city, but that's what one person says. It's one of the top 3 oldest buildings in the city, and somebody else has told me it's in the top 10. It's currently being rehabbed, and he has taken his sweet, sweet time to do it.
How old is the building?
The building next door is, I don't know, but it's one of the top, it's one of the oldest in the city.
1910.
No, it's older than that. But the bottom line is, several of the people who do a lot with history in Port Tampa have said that it's older than the library. So, they're rehabbing it. But we'd like to see something that looks like that. But other than that, I can't complain because the neighbors aren't complaining.
Okay.
And the neighbors said they're okay with it. I don't know what we would put industrial on that lot. I mean, there's just not a whole lot to put there. I don't like it, but it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miranda.
Want me to read it?
Oh, no.
I don't.
Anybody else here for public comment?
No.
No? Can I get a motion closed?
So
Do
moved.
you need any rebuttal, sir?
No, sir, we thank you and thank all those involved for bearing with us to bring this to you.
Thank you very much. We have a motion closed from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Miranda, the substitute ordinance at the bottom.
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 2, file EZ 23-37. Substitute orders being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 7105, 7109, and 7111 Kissimmee Street, and folio numbers 138-665/0000 and 138-666/0000 in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification CG, commercial general to RSSO, residential single family, and PD plan development, residential single family attached and detached, providing an effective date.
And with the revision sheet as well, sir.
Yeah, revision sheet.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, item number 3 is going to be taken after 6 and 7, so we go to item number 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Second reading and adoption will be held for this item. It's going to be July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Item number 4.
Yes, Sam Thomas Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is REZ 2394, a request to rezone 8026 Interbay Boulevard from residential single-family 50 to planned development for residential single-family detached. I'll turn it over to Jennifer with the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission. Here is the subject site. We're still in South Tampa, still in the coastal high hazard area. The site is an acre, a little over an acre, 1.22 acres, and they're requesting a couple of single-family detached dwelling units on it. So in the surrounding area, we have some single-family detached. There's a park down here, and there are some attached, single-family attached over here to the northeast. So that does follow with the future land use map. This is residential 20, so any single-family attached units would probably be in this land use category. The subject site itself is residential 10. Sometimes when we get these requests and we see something odd with the future land use map, we look into it, we take out some old books that go back to the 80s, and we research it a little bit. So I'm just here to state for the record that the entire subject site is residential 10. There is no, this is a mapping error when we transition into digital maps. So there is no part of the subject site that is public, semi-public, which is the blue. That will be changed on the next quarterly submittal of our plan amendment maps. The correct future land use is reflected in the staff report. So we went back and did some history on that there. We did find this consistent with the comprehensive plan and that underlying residential 10 future land use category. 2 units are proposed along Interbay, and a 3rd unit is situated on the southern portion of the subject site. This is an overall density of only 2.45 dwelling units an acre. Residential 10 can have up to 10 dwelling units an acre. So but it is utilizing the site in a way that we feel is appropriate for the surrounding area, especially given its configuration. So with that, we find that it will further a lot of the policies in the comprehensive plan relating to infill housing, continuing to build housing for Tampa's growing population. That concludes my presentation.
You said you found it consistent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Clendenin.
I find it ageist to say that you went back to old maps from the 1980s.
Sorry.
You're killing me.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Sam Thomas Development Coordination. We'll start out with the aerial map. So here's the subject site, as Jen pointed out, outlined in red. It's along Interbay Boulevard, and then you have Wall Street over here where this flag comes out. It is an irregular shaped lot. Along the south side of Interbay Boulevard, you may have mainly single-family detached units. There's a few semi-detached down here. You have a church here, some public use here, which is a fire station. On the north side of Interbay Boulevard, you do have some single-family attached units, and then some multifamily here, here, and here. And then as you move up McDill Avenue, you have some manufacturing and industrial uses here, and then some multifamily uses to the north there. Next, we will go to the site plan provided by the applicant. So you have 2 units oriented towards Interbay Boulevard with access provided from Interbay Boulevard. Each of these units are providing a 2-car garage. Then as you move south, you have a 3rd unit that is oriented towards the southern property line, and their access is provided from Wall Street here. They also have a 2-car garage. Overall, 6 parking spaces are required and 6 are being provided. You can also see there's quite a large number of trees on site that are being preserved. The maximum building height is 37 feet proposed. And I'll go to some pictures of the site now, or some elevations first, actually. So this is parcel number 1 facing Interbay Boulevard. This will be the 2nd unit, also along Interbay Boulevard. And this is the 3rd one that is facing the southern property line. Here are some photos of the subject site. So this is looking south at the subject site from Interbay Boulevard. This would be looking west, so you can see one of the single-family detached homes there. This is looking east on Interbay, with a single-family detached. This is looking north from the subject site, so you can see some of those single-family detached on the northern side. This is also looking west along Interbay Boulevard. Looking east a little bit closer up on those homes. This is moving further south into the neighborhood, or into the subject site. You can see that it is rather of a deep lot, and there's quite a lot of trees on it that are being preserved. A little bit better view of those trees. This is looking west, so the single-family home that I showed you earlier, this is like the rest of their property going farther down into the lot. This is where that driveway will come in for the southern property along Wall Street here. And this is where the driveway would be coming up. This is looking north into the subject site, so Interbay would be in the foreground here. And then this is Wall Street, so this would be at the end of that long jog where the driveway would start coming in off Wall Street and then work its way into the site from Wall Street to the southern house that's proposed. This is looking north along Wall Street, so the driveway would be coming in here, and you have a single-family detached home there. This is looking south along Wall Street, so about right here is where the driveway would be coming through. And here's a view looking east, so you can see that flagged part of the parcel there. And then lastly, this is interior to the site looking north. Interbay Boulevard would be up here. So I'll put the site plan back up for you all. Development and Coordination Compliance staff reviewed the application and find it to be the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. Should it be the pleasure of council to approve the application, modifications to the site plan as shown on the revision sheet submitted must be completed between first and second reading. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Applicant, please state your name.
Good evening, council. Steve Michelini representing the petitioner. And let me just explain to you, these are 3 single-family homes. And one of the issues that we were dealing with was this driveway and this turnaround, which was required by the fire department. Again.
Zoom out so we can see it better.
There we go. So, I mean, this is an unusual driveway, but the lots are very deep, and the fire department wanted this access for emergency purposes, so that's why it's there. But these are 3 single-family developments. We reduced the size of this unit to accommodate that tree. We squeezed it over a little bit, and to try to save as many trees as possible, we oriented the site and moved the things around. The city staff and the planning commission have both found it to be consistent. There are no waivers being requested. And I know that you all are sensitive to the waiver issue. So we endeavored to make this site plan work and make sure that there weren't any unusual circumstances other than the configurations, which we couldn't get to under Euclidean zoning. It does promote this efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure. It provides accommodations for affordable housing that could be, you could develop up to 12 units in here, and we're requesting 3. The residential 10 land use classification would allow for that, considering the size of the lots. Although it's appropriate, in our opinion, to only propose the 3 units which we're bringing to you. There are multifamily townhouse other projects within the vicinity. However, we felt like the single-family development would be more appropriate. We recognize and acknowledge the changing needs and technologies and economics for the consumer, and the Port Tampa area is older in the city, and the lots are very irregular shaped. They are narrow, but they're also very deep. And so in this case, you know, these lots are very, very long, and we felt like that was the best way to conserve the trees and also allow for a single family to occur on the front sides of the property. Encourage the flexible land development, which reduces transportation needs and conserves energy. There are numerous trees on the site, and the proposed development has been thoughtfully designed to remove as few trees as possible. This is from the staff report. And to have the minimal impact on the remaining trees. Promote and encourage the development where appropriate in location and character. This is an appropriate infill project, which is sensitive to the land and the conditions as well as a geographic location within the city. Promote desirable living and working environments, and due to the irregular shape of the lots, it would not be possible to develop 3 units through the current RS50 zoning. That's also from the staff report. Promote architectural features and elements. We believe that we're consistent with that, and all of the departments have found us to be consistent. The Planning Commission went on to find that we were consistent. This is 1.22 acres with 3 units, which is, as they referred to, is it's less than 3 units per acre in terms of density. The goals, it's compliant with the goals and objectives and policies of the Tampa Conservative Plan for city planning strategies, land development regulation, goals and objectives and policies, overall residential development and redevelopment. Single-family areas should be encouraged, and this is a location where it is. Adequate sites to accommodate housing needs, coastal high hazard issues are being addressed. Hurricane evacuation shelters and plans will be in place. The Planning Commission reviewed it and found it to be consistent, and it had minimal adverse impacts on the area. Again, we have what we believe is a sensitive project. It's less intensive than would be allowed by the comprehensive plan, and we've designed it in a way that we've met the codes and have no waivers being requested. We're respectfully requesting your approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Condon.
Mr. McLean, can you put the site plan back up there with the footprints?
Can you see that, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, you can zoom out a little bit because I kind of want to get the whole picture. My question is, because you've got really small setbacks for the front yards of these units, but it looks like you've got excessive land in the back. Was that for tree retention?
Yes, we're trying to avoid the tree protective radiuses. That's why we pushed them up a little bit. But they are consistent with the adjacent properties in terms of the building setback lines.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. Anybody in the public? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name's Stephanie Pointer. I live a 5-minute walk from here. I actually have, in the last 60 days, I've had 5 houses on the other side of this property. So I have driven past this property at least 100 times because I would have to go down there and show houses or not. So I actually found on that L-shaped leg, that's a dead end on Chisholm, and I have a house for rent on Chisholm, and I came back that way and I noticed it and I went, wait a minute, there's no sign on Interbay. So on June the 6th, I sent an email to LaShawn, to Mr. Lum and Mr. McElhaney and said, hey, there's no sign up there on Interbay. Now, there's one on Wall Street, and I'll be the first person to admit that, but the address is on Interbay. And if anybody else had seen it, I think everybody here knows that Stephanie Pointer would have got an email, a phone call, a private message. Somebody would have posted it on Facebook because that's what our community does. But when I sent the email, the response that I got was absolutely dumbfounding to me. I got this response from Mr. Lum. It says, Stephanie, you lobbied city council. You got your way with the big signs. We have been putting them up, and it's costing every person in the city that has any kind of zoning issue a lot more money with all this BS. You have pictures of it. You have the pictures of it, and we are not going to start monitoring these signs whether the wind blows them over or not. Did you ever think that the bigger signs would catch more wind? Well, I'd like to point out, and we have somebody here who can be a witness, that Carol Ann and I did not ask for the bigger signs. Actually, somebody from the TBBA asked for the bigger signs. We didn't come up with that. We thought it was brilliant, though. But I would also like to point out that Mr. Lum never showed up for any of the good neighbor notice changes. I don't have a problem with this project. That's the kicker. I have no problem with it because they could put 12 houses on this lot. I was okay with 3. I wasn't even going to come down here today, but I get this snarky, smart-ass email from somebody who didn't put the sign up, and I told them that on June the 6th. On June the 11th, I took another video of the property without the sign. Now, I think that everybody here knows me well enough that if he'd have said to me, you know, Stephanie, I'm out of the country. You know, Stephanie, I'm not able to get back down there. Can you go put it back up for me? I would have put it up for him. But instead, I get hateful, nasty emails about something that everybody on that diocese voted for. Grow up. I don't have a problem with the project. I have a problem with somebody being nasty and hateful. And if the sign is on the ground, they need to pick it up and put it up. Because I never saw it. And I'm here under oath to say that is Mr. Lum.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to speak on item number 4? We have Kate Wells on the line. Does anybody have any questions for Kate, who's our attorney, on this? No? All right. Any
We've
questions?
received
If
an
not-
email from Kate Wells indicating that the notice was perfected and accepted by the city clerk. I'd be happy to put that in the record if you like.
All right. Anything else? If not, we'll get a motion to close. We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Vieira, would you mind reading item number 4?
Yes, sir. Moving ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 3900 North Marguerite Street in the city of...
No.
I'm
The one
sorry,
above
I'm reading 5.
Interbay.
Sorry. I know, I have this weird glare. It's a long story. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning proper in general vicinity of 8026 Interbay Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential single family to PD plan development, residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
And the revision.
With it, yes, sir.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you very much, Council.
Thanks. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please read the vote.
The vote?
Yeah. Read it. Read the vote. Passes unanimously.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Item number 5.
Same time as development coordination. Agenda item number 5 is RAZ 23114, request to rezone 3900 North Marguerite Street from residential single family to planned development for office, business, and professional. I'll turn it over to Jennifer with the Planning Commission.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. We have traveled to the Central Tampa Planning District and the Tampa Heights Urban Village. So we're right off of Interstate 275 right here, south of East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. It's pretty commercial in nature in the surrounding area. So that is, there are some residences actually to the south of the subject site, and I'm sure Sam will go into more detail when he shows his site pictures. But the site has a split future land use designation, so it has community mixed use 35 in the pink, residential 20 in the brown, and then we have some residential 10 kind of in the surrounding area. But the site itself has those 2 future land use designations. Because it's in the urban village, the applicant can utilize a provision in the comprehensive plan we kind of refer to as the blending provision. So they can, there's a lot more flexibility with utilizing a site with split land uses because of that blending provision through approval of a plan development application, which is what they're proposing to you today. So when Sam shows the site plan, you may notice that a lot of the commercial uses are on the R20 portion of the site, and because they're using this blending provision, that is acceptable with that policy. So we also found that they were orienting the unit entrances as the plan seeks to provide for the safety of pedestrians and sidewalk connections. And we did find that this was compatible with the redevelopment of the area to ensure the social and economic well-being of the city, consistent with those policies in the comprehensive plan. So we determined that the request would have no adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Specifically, it is just south of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, with an area containing predominantly non-residential uses, and it's immediately adjacent to the on-ramp of Interstate 275 to the east. So we found this proposal consistent with the plan. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions? Nope, thank you very much. Yes, sir?
Okay, we'll get started with our aerial and zoning map. So we have the subject site right here, outlined in red on North Marguerite Street. Along MLK Boulevard, you have mainly commercial general uses. And as you move south, you have single-family detached along Selma and Virginia Avenue. You also have some single-family detached here. Then this is Robles Park in this area right there. As you move to the east, you have Interstate 275. Directly north of the subject site, you have commercial general zoning with a retail space and a medical office. And then this PD right here, adjacent to the subject site, is a drive-through restaurant. And then to the south, you have another PD, which is a professional office building as well. So we'll go to the site plan next. So the site plan is, this is a site plan provided by the applicant. The applicant is proposing a 4,836 square foot structure. It's 4 business professional office suites. So you have one here, 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 and here. Access to the site is provided from North Marguerite Street through an access easement. So this is not part of the subject site, but there is an access agreement between the 2 property owners to provide access to the site. So what's bolded in the dark is the subject property. The proposed building height is a maximum of 20 feet. There's an existing 5-foot sidewalk here along Marguerite Street, and pedestrian connections are provided along the front of the building here to connect to Marguerite Street. These are the doors here for the entrance. And then along the back side of the property, they're also providing a back exit with pedestrian connections to Marguerite Street. 16 parking spaces are required and 13 are being provided. So you can see a majority of the parking spaces are up here. And then there's a parking spot in 3 of the business office professional suites as well. And then lastly, there is a grand tree that is located off-site. It's 38 inches. And then you can see that they are providing the protective radius that's required for that grand tree. Here are the elevations provided by the applicant. So your west elevation, south, east, and north. So this would be your main elevation oriented inward, where you have the front doors that connect to that sidewalk along Marguerite. So we'll go through some pictures. I kind of snapped a lot of pictures on this one because it's such an irregularly shaped lot. So this is looking north from the subject site. So you have Marguerite here in 275. There's the access to the site. So this part is not part of the subject site, but over here it is. And then you have the drive-through restaurant over here, and then you can see those commercial uses I mentioned earlier to the north. This is looking south at the subject site. The billboard actually is not included as part of the subject site, so it will be remaining. But you can see the subject site back behind here, and there's that business professional office that I told you about. And this is Marguerite Street / the interstate on-ramp for 275. This is looking west at the subject site. So you can see the drive-through restaurant and then the business professional office there. Moving a little bit further west, you can see the off-site grand tree there that's being preserved. And then the drive-through restaurant. This access right here is actually Selma. It's a vacated road, so it goes all the way from Marguerite to Central Avenue that's over here. This is looking north along Marguerite. You can see the existing sidewalk there, Interstate 275. This is looking east, so you have the subject site here, Marguerite Street, and then the access agreement area. Looking south gives you a better view of the off-site grand tree that's being preserved, and then the subject site here. Looking east, so this would be from the drive-through restaurant area where it connects over to the subject property. This is looking south along Marguerite, so you have the subject site here. And then this is west past the subject property, so this is Selma that's been vacated where it connects to Central Avenue there, and then you have the drive-through use to the north, which is the last picture. So let me put site plan back up for you. The Development Review and Compliance staff reviewed the petition and find the request inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Please see the findings from Transportation relating to a waiver requested to access a local road greater than 150 feet from an arterial or collector road. Notwithstanding staff's finding of inconsistency, should it be the pleasure of council to approve the waivers as identified on the report and application. Modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second readings. I'm available if there's any questions.
Council have questions? I have a question. The vacated road to Selma, does the property owner have access on the west side to enter this property?
On the west side?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing, to my knowledge, that's restricting them from it unless, I mean, technically the property owner here could possibly put up a fence, but I would imagine that this vacating of Selma came with some type of restriction saying that there still had to be access through. But I can't answer you for sure on that without consulting with right away to see if there were any restrictions on that release. If there's probably like maybe a release of easement or something tied to that vacating.
Okay, thank
but
you.
I can't guarantee you.
Thank you. Do we have an applicant?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Angela Halber. I represent the applicant, Church Street LLC, and I am here with the applicant and the architect who has worked on this as well. I believe the first question you had was about the access from Selma, and we do have access from that street. I'm going to put this down. There is a drive-through restaurant that has access through this property, right through the middle. So our access is shared with that drive-through restaurant and with all the public. So that vacated portion of Selma has public access from it, that's in connection with the driveway.
All the way to Central?
Use. Yes, yes.
Okay.
And then the parcel that is not part of the site is part of the parcel. It is encumbered with easements, significant easements, not just for the access, but other easements as well, because the primary use of that property effectively is that billboard that's on that property, which is owned by others, and there's no relationship between the two property owners other than their neighbors, and they have easement rights between each other. So laying this out to make it fit on this parcel has been a creative challenge for our team, primarily because we wanted to preserve the grand tree that is off-site. We were able to adjust the location of the office building so that it is closer to Marguerite Street. We have added pedestrian connections around the building and have provided for sufficient access between the parcel that is not owned by the applicant and this parcel so that there's enough space for distance between the two parcels, even though it is encumbered significantly with easements, but there's cross-access. Moving this building over closer to Marguerite also allowed for some additional green space to be placed upon the property on the area that's closer to Selma. And again, this is a property that is still zoned with a residential zoning, but it is, as you can see, it is surrounded by primarily commercial uses. Pretty intense commercial uses with a drive-through restaurant running through the middle of it and a large billboard at the side. I don't want to belabor those points. I would point out the two waivers that we've requested. The waivers are associated directly with that preservation of the grand tree to fit all of the parking spaces on the site plan. Those adjustments had to be taken into account. The original layout that we had fit 16 parking spaces, and we had to take two of them off to kind of make those shifts that we've described. And then the other waiver is the transportation waiver. Again, as you can see, we have the access through that easement area, but it is not directly off the arterial or the collector. At this time, if you have questions, our team is available for you to ask.
Any questions or comments? Nope. Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak? Yes, sir? No?
No, I'm part of the petition.
Oh, okay. Is there anything else? Any rebuttal, anything? No. Motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Councilmember Henderson, did you hear enough of it?
Yes, I've prepared this motion.
Okay. Item number 5.
Whole life. Preparing for this moment your whole life.
Not my whole life. I move file number REZ 23-114, an ordinance being presented for first reading, an ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 3900 North Marguerite in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential single family, to PD plan development, office business professional, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson with the revision sheet.
And with the revision sheet.
And we have a second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. All right, now we go to 6 and 7, followed by number 3. Correct?
Yes, correct. LaShawn Dock Development Coordination, and we're asking that item 6 and 7 be opened together.
All right, everything is open, so go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Item number 6 is REZ 2402. It's for the property at 17302 Morris Bridge Road and Folio 59222.0004. This is a request to rezone the property. This is a part of K-Bar Ranch. So this request, along with REZ 2403, are both located within K-Bar Ranch. This is contained within Parcel C through K-Bar Ranch, and then 2403 is Parcel H. So the request for Parcel C, which is REZ 2402, is to rezone the property from PDA to PDA. The current PDA was approved in 2018 under REZ 1814. It allows for the CN uses, congregate living facility, and residential uses. So for this parcel, the request is a PDA zoning, and this would allow for residential single-family detached and attached uses. And on REZ 2403, that's Parcel H, the request is for PDA zoning for residential single-family detached uses. On Parcel H, that property is currently PDA zoned, and it was approved in 2015 under REZ 1511. That allows for CN uses and residential single-family uses. So just briefly, just to review with you the PDA process. So K-Bar is an overall development. It has PDA approval on it, which is Plan Development Alternative. A Plan Development Alternative anticipates phase development. So as each phase is submitted prior to permitting, they must receive incremental site plan review and approval. That plan that is submitted is then a PD site plan. It is much more detailed. You would submit then your landscape plans, your elevations, and those are reviewed for each phase that's submitted. Through the years, you can see with the site plan that was submitted, the overall area has received various rezonings. So just to kind of give a little bit of a background, you can see on the site plan, there's one sheet provided in the site plan package, and it takes you to the history and just shows you some of the PDA rezonings which have applied. This was from 2003, this is from 2004, and each of these rezonings has a set of entitlements over it. So what you have before you today is on 2402, that rezoning number, that pertains to a portion of Parcel C, and then 2403 pertains to Parcel H. And so we figure we will present them together for you. They're in the same vicinity, and they're adjacent to each other. So what I'll do is turn it over to Jennifer to give her report, and I'll come back and give my report on those.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
council.
All right. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. First, I'll go over 2402. I'll present on both of these, LaShawn, right after their, okay. So this is 2402. Everything to the north is in Pasco County. To the east, some of this area, like kind of where my pen is, it is in Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County jurisdictional boundary, and then some of this right here is in the Hillsborough County jurisdictional boundary. This is the subject site. It's within K-Bar Ranch, and everything to the east is very agricultural and rural in this area, but on the other side of Morrisbridge Road, we obviously see this development pattern of the single-family detached and some single-family attached uses on the west side of Morrisbridge Road. Yes. So here's the future land use map. It's, this is white to the north because that's the Pasco County boundary. To the east of Morrisbridge Road, kind of where this hatching is Hillsborough County. And then this is all within the city. This pink color is suburban mixed use 6. There's also some environmentally sensitive area lands, kind of these little green bubbles on the future land use map. And then as you can see, we see these parceled out that has been developed with the housing units. My report is so similar for both of these. I'll just do, I'll go over the aerial and then a report for both next. But this is 2403, and again, it's undeveloped. We do have some single-family detached to the south, and that's suburban mixed-use 3 outlined, and then some environmentally sensitive areas in that green color. So the applicant, when they go through the incremental review, we have policies about coordinating with the Environmental Protection Commission, delineating those wetlands. That will happen at incremental, but we did put all of those in our report because we did, find that they were applicable to this project. But we looked at the main thing that we're reviewing for a PDA, because it is so general, as LaShawn was saying, and it's phased. We're looking at for that they're meeting the intent of the future land use category and that their numbers line up. And so we found that both of those things were true and that their densities and what they're asking for today is consistent with that suburban mixed use 3 future land use category, and that what they're requesting is allowable for the density anticipated in the future land use designation, and that the uses that they're proposing meets the intent of that future land use category. Suburban mixed use 3 is typically in New Tampa. It's not really anywhere else in the city, and so it has provided for 3 dwelling units an acre at a suburban scale. So that's really the only place in the city that we have that future land use designation. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Any questions or comments? Nope. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you again, Council LaShawn, Doc, Development Coordination. So I'll start with REZ 2402. So again, this is a part of the K-Bar Ranch development. This is applicable to Parcel C. So Parcel C, there's an area that is identified on the site plan as Parcel C North and South. So for the north, a maximum of 188 units are allowed, and this is for single-family attached units. Parcel C South will allow for a maximum of 345 units, and those are single-family detached units. So the project area itself contains approximately 310 acres. K-Bar Ranch in its entirety contains 2,300 acres. So the site plan itself that is provided for you contains development standards. So for single-family detached, the minimum lot area is 4,000 square feet, and for single-family attached, the minimum lot area is 1,360 square feet. A maximum building height of 35 feet is allowed. So this request would allow for the single-family attached and detached uses within that parcel, reducing the overall residential entitlements, and it allows for a change in the north-south collector roadway into Pasco, which is to the north. So on the site also, just to notate, the site is located within the New Tampa Overlay District. Any residential development would not comply with this overlay because this is a commercial overlay, but it is within that district. So the subject site is also subject to the conditions with the Associated Developers Agreement. That agreement details timing, responsibilities, cost, and required transportation improvements, and the wetland wildlife corridor monitoring also is within that agreement. And I'll show you the map for this one, and then I'll show you the next parcel. So this is 2402. So this is Morris Bridge Road. This is the county line that's located here to the north. And this is the subject site, which is outlined in red. So this is that parcel. Our map shows the line going here, which is incorrect. This really is the southern boundary line for this particular parcel. And then I'll show you pictures of that site, of both of them, momentarily. I'm going to move to 2403. 2403 is parcel H. That is a part of K-Bar development also. So that project area contains 87.5 acres. Parcel H in its entirety contains 107.5 acres. K-Bar Ranch, of course, contains in its entirety 2,300 acres. The maximum building height allowed is 35 feet. And the setbacks and the minimum standards are located within the site plan that is submitted. So the applicant is requesting for this parcel to allow for residential unit count of 155 units, and this would contain single-family detached units. And this also would allow the change in a point of ingress and egress for the roadway located through parcel H, because that roadway would run through a portion of parcel H. So the site plan has the standards for single-family detached. A minimum lot width of 40 feet is required and a minimum lot area of 4,000 square feet. And of course, this site is in the New Tampa overlay. The residential development does not have to comply with the New Tampa overlay. It is a commercial overlay district, but there is a condition on the site plan that the amenity center will comply with the overlay standards. Also in the staff report, I do want to point out there is an error in the last sentence. There is a reference to Hidden River PDA, but this is not Hidden River. I put that by mistake. And so with that, this also has the developer's agreement, and you will hear that item next after this item. So this is the aerial. So for 2403, it contains this parcel. This is the area. So I'll show you some photos of the site. The site is vacant. The access to the site, here's Morris Bridge Road, here's County Line. You can access the site here. This is a roadway which has not been improved yet. So I have a couple of pictures here once you enter the site, here further in the site, and then I turned around, headed back to Morris Bridge. There are a couple of pictures here, and then east of the site, which is all wooded. So I'll show you those. Let me first also show you the site plan again. So on the site plan, just to orient you on that sheet, so this is parcel C. This is Morris Bridge Road. This is parcel H. So this is the site plan for parcel C. To show you, this is C North, and this is identified as C South. Some of these areas, the green areas, are the approximate wetland locations. The area, the boundary in red is the property boundary. I just wanted to show briefly the lot standards which are included in the site plan on the on one of the pages of the site plan package. It just shows the development standards for single-family detached and then the standards for single-family attached, to include the setbacks, the building heights, and the lot coverages. And then let me show you the pictures of the site. So this is as you enter the site. Let me zoom out. Too far. Okay. So this is the site off of Morris Bridge. So this is parcel C, the east portion of it. And this is, as soon as you enter, this is your view. This is to the, this is the eastern boundary off of Morris Bridge. This is heading towards the center of parcel C, near the northwest corner. And that's the view. This is County Line Road, and you can see the residential single-family development that's just on the north side of that. This is heading back towards Morris Bridge Road. This is on the east boundary of the site. And then this is across Morris Bridge Road, and this is the development that's east of it, or the wooded area. And on the site plan for 2403, there's a correction that is mentioned. There are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. So I have those. There's also on REZ 2402, a revised revision sheet I'm going to provide to council. But both of the requests were found consistent. Both requests have changes required to be made between first and second reading, and the applicant has agreed to those changes. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Ms. Batzel, please state your name. Go ahead.
Hello, Elise Batzel for the record on behalf of the applicant. We do have a very brief presentation because for me, pictures are worth 1,000 words. We're going to give you a little bit of an overview. Am I supposed to point to something? Oh, Sean, why is this not moving forward?
See if it'll do it here.
Oh, use the keyboard. Okay, no problem. Got it. There we go. LaShawn's already told you that this property is located at the county border with Pasco County, north of Pictorial Drive and west of Morris Bridge Road. You can see from these pictures that it's been a little bit of a hodgepodge with respect to various rezonings out there. So we redrew the maps to scale for you. This is the overall K-Bar Ranch Parkway, K-Bar Ranch development. And as you can see, this is where parcel H lies within the development, and that is parcel C within the development. We wanted to present these to you together because it's really going to be an integrated development when the developer is done, and it didn't make any sense to divide them apart. So let me just quickly drill this down into simple. Right now, today, parcel H can be developed with 390 residential units. Parcel C can be developed with 360 single-family detached and 188 townhome units. Everything we're going to do is on this picture. So first of all, we're going to realign the north-south roadway. If you look at the roadway that is in an orange check, that's what's approved today. We're asking to remove the loop portion of the roadway and realign the roadway going north and south as you see in blue. And the reason that we're asking to get rid of the loop is because it goes through environmentally sensitive and wildlife corridor areas. So we'd like to eliminate that portion. There's independent access for the townhomes off of Morris Bridge, so they don't need to utilize that loop road to get out from the access point. We also are going to reduce density in both pods. If you look at the little chart at the bottom, we're going from 390 down to 155 in parcel H, and we're going from 360 single-family detached and 188 townhomes to 345 single-family detached and 188 townhomes within parcel C. When we first started, we were a little concerned. K-Bar Ranch has been a very engaged neighborhood, and we have done a lot of engagement between now and then, which is why I think that you don't see a room full of people. We held a community meeting on May 22nd. Our biggest concern was misinformation, right? So we took that information, we disseminated it to the people that were there and asked them to please spread the word. There was some follow-up correspondence where we sent site plans and a copy of our community meeting presentation, and the applicant did attend the K-Bar Ranch CDD meeting as well. We think that really allowed the community to understand what was happening here. So one of the most important infrastructure improvements that the developer has to do as part of this project is connect what we call segment G of K-Bar Ranch Parkway to Morris Bridge Road. The area in red is that segment that is not built today, but we will have to develop as part and develop, build, construct, and dedicate. I had a lovely meeting with Barbara Tripp, the fire chief, and we went through this whole presentation, and we talked about what we were going to do, and she told me where all of the fire stations are right now, and we created this map for her. If you look at the fire stations, you can see that all the areas are in red are how far the fire trucks have to traverse right now today to get into K-Bar Ranch. I think at one of your prior city council meetings, someone said 12 minutes, which is a lot for response time. We do have a letter to submit to the record with your approval where she basically says that based on the information that we've received, including the maps, she confirms that the travel times will definitely decrease, which is what leads to better response times. So with your permission, we'll submit that into the record. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that the green is the new route. So the red is the existing route. The green allows the fire station closest to get into K-Bar Ranch so much quicker, particularly on that eastern side. With that, we think that there's great benefits to our proposal. We're reducing density, we're adding additional protection for the wildlife corridor and environmentally sensitive areas, decreasing the travel time for emergency vehicles, and we do have staff recommendation of approval. Our entire development team is here. If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, can we submit those documents into the record?
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, evidently we already did.
Okay. Councilmember Vieira was first and Councilmember Clendenin, correct?
Did you? No, you were first. Thank you.
I may not have to talk after he does.
Correct, it's his district.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that presentation. So I wanted to confirm a few things, if I may. So for what you're already approved for, you can do this without council, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so by coming to us, you're actually having a reduction in density in
Yes,
homes.
sir.
Okay, good. I just wanted to put that for the record because that is a very sensitive issue, obviously, in K-Bar Ranch. We had a controversial hearing, I think it was in 2019, and that wasn't the case. So I did want to point out that distinction. And I'm glad you also pointed out the issue there with Tampa Fire Rescue, because this is an issue because this is a quasi-judicial. I haven't been able to talk about this publicly, but you know, we're always talking about response times for K-Bar Ranch. I'm always talking about a cut through Morris Bridge Road, and this would appear to be it. So I just wanted to put that out for the record that this is something that will, God willing, improve fire response times in K-Bar Ranch, which is a huge issue. We've had a back and forth for many years with Chief Tripp and Chief Nicholas Cicero before her on fire response times in K-Bar Ranch, talking about potentially having a fire station out there, and then alternatively looking for other cost-effective measures that can do the same thing. And this would appear to at least give us a double for the home run that we want. So I think that's wonderful. So I just wanted to go over those things on the record with you, because again, you used the word misinformation. I hate it whenever we see misinformation on things like this.
And there was a lot of misinformation. When
Yes,
we talked to the community, there was definitely, they didn't have the facts. They thought we were doing all kinds of different things than we actually were. Once we were able to really disseminate the information out through the community leaders, I think that everyone was actually very happy with what we were doing.
Yes, ma'am. And then the allowing the K-Bar Ranch Parkway to go forward is obviously a big benefit, but I did want to say these things just for the record, because again, back in 2019, I voted against a good number of homes in K-Bar Ranch because with the information we had, these issues were not there. You can get more homes than what you're seeking now without even coming to City Council. So that's important.
If we weren't realigning the roadway, the roadway goes from C into H now. That's why we had to bring parcel H in to begin with. So if we were to keep the roadway like it was, we probably wouldn't be here. We would just have developed less. But we did want to come back to council, and we thought while we were here, it made sense to reduce the entitlements on those two pieces. If something happens and this developer doesn't move forward, then now you know that this is what is approved on the site.
Yes, ma'am. And again, if I had my way, right, and I'm not wearing my city councilman hat and certainly not my attorney at law hat, but we wouldn't have any more homes out there because I think we got a lot of homes in New Tampa already. But again, you can get more homes than what you're seeking now without council approval. By going through here, we get the added benefit of K-Bar Ranch Parkway, and then we get that potential cut through for Tampa Fire Rescue, which is a big deal. So again, I don't want to be a part of spreading misinformation or demagoguing this issue, so, I'll be glad to support this, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Clendenin.
Yeah, I have a question, I think probably for staff. So this is education for me, because this, of course, is a huge project, and since I've been on council, we haven't had to deal with something, a PDA of this magnitude. So from what I understand from the briefings is that these are incrementally approved, so there is a requirement for the developer to come back and incrementally get approval as they move forward, correct?
That is correct, LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. So for each phase, the developer must submit a PD site plan package, and they submit it for incremental site plan review. And at that time, they detail and provide what you would normally see on a PD site plan.
So this was coming to us one way or another. It wouldn't.
Well, this was already approved. This is already a PDA.
Right. Okay.
And they're changing the actual entitlements, the cap on the entitlements in the roadway.
Okay. Okay, so.
The location of
so
the
why,
roadway connector.
So we're gonna hear the resolution next.
I think your question is, the site plan will be administratively approved now.
Right.
That's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
Correct, through the
Exactly.
incremental site plan review, it is an administrative approval. Currently in the PDA, you're approving, or council would hear and approve, an overall set of entitlements.
So why do we have the resolution?
This, so
The development
also with
agreement.
this PDA and through the history of the K-Bar development and those PDs that I've shown you on that site plan with all the other PDs, developer agreements and agreements are tied to those. And so what's next?
So this development agreement did not exist until this phase came forward?
There was one on each parcel over each one. One was from 2015 and one was from 2018. 2015 was not amended. This one was amended to 2018.
Okay. And I think I'm kind of hemming around because.
And that is the next item that we have on the
Right.
agenda, and that is the first amended and restated 2018 development agreement.
I think this is part of like beating around the bush because in the development, we haven't gotten to this yet, so somebody stop me if I'm out of order. But in the development agreement, we talk about wastewater, we talk about water, and at least talked about the fire issue, which has been a hot button item on this council. And of course, this is Councilman Vieira's district, and this has been part of his passion. And I know you said it decreased travel time, but it wasn't a quantitative,
I think I can answer your questions if I may.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
So we had to amend the 2018 development agreement because there were certain requirements and timing requirements that dealt with the roadway and the connection to Pasco County. Because we're changing the roadway in the PDA, we also had to change the development agreement to reflect what you're approving now. So it will reflect this development rather than the development that was in the 2018 agreement for parcel C before. So it's really just updating the agreement to modify those things that you're approving today. All the things with wastewater and all of that, those aren't modified, that still remains in effect. So what you'll hear next, and Susan Johnson-Velez will present that, but it's just a development agreement that updates so that we can do what we showed you on paper rather than the old, more intense zoning.
So since the entitlements were previously agreed to in the PDA, I'm assuming through this resolution, there would not have been an opportunity to extract like something reference fire response times or stations or emergency
There was
vehicle.
extraction.
Yeah.
Your staff does a great job at making sure they're advocating on behalf of
Somebody's going to
the
object to my statement.
Okay.
I'm
Ms.
Ms.
Wells.
Thank you, and I apologize that I'm not there in person.
Hope you're feeling better.
I want to remind council that right now we're hearing the 2 rezoning applications and those quasi-judicial hearings. I would ask that any discussion of the development agreement occur only after both rezoning applications are approved, if they're approved.
Hey, I prefaced it with I knew I was out of order.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 6? There's nobody? Motion to close from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilman Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Clendenin.
Do you want me to do 6 and 7?
No, we had the 6 only.
So an ordinance being presented for first reading and consideration, an ordinance rezoning properties in the general vicinity of 17302 Morris Bridge Road in Folio number 5922200004 in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classifications, PDA plan development alternative to PDA plan development alternative, residential, single-family, detached, providing an effective date,
And the revision sheet.
along with the revision sheet.
We have a motion, we have a second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Now we can go to item number, wait, after she reads it.
Second reading and adoption. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
All right, Councilmember Hurtak, would you mind doing, can we read 7 now, or do you have anything to add, ma'am?
Yep.
Read
Yeah.
7 now, yeah.
All right,
Read
7.
File number REZ 24-03, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity north of Pictorial Park Drive and K-Bar Ranch Parkway, folio numbers 59222-0003 and 59224-0000 in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PDA Plan Development Alternative to PDA Plan Development Alternative Residential Single Family Detached, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak with a second from Councilmember Miranda, and the revision sheet.
Sorry, didn't know. We got the physical one for 6, but not for 7. So, including the revision sheet.
We have a motion and a second with revision sheet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Johnson Velez, item number, wait, I'm sorry. Just going so quick today.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Ms. Johnson Velez, item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. Item number 3 is the first of 2 public hearings required by statute for development agreements. As Ms. Batzel stated just a few moments ago, this is an amended and restated 2018 development agreement. Part of the history of K-Bar Ranch is that with each rezoning that's taken place as development has proceeded from west to east, is that development agreements are adopted typically in conjunction with each of the rezonings that set out the phasing and timing of infrastructure improvements and primarily the roadway. So for example, they would align the number of units to infrastructure to make sure that one doesn't get ahead of the other. So the 2018 development agreement, when it was adopted, set forth a certain schedule that provided for the timing and phasing of development along with infrastructure improvements that went along with the plans that were approved at that time. So because of the changes that are resulting from the 2 rezonings that you all just approved, this amended and restated development agreement now modifies the infrastructure improvements, timing and phasing to coincide with the rezoning proposals that you've just approved. So the north-south, the remainder of K-Bar Ranch Parkway, so it sets out timing for construction plans to be done and for construction to commence and for the roadway to be built and accepted, and limits development that can take place in terms of each of those increments. After you conduct this public hearing this evening, council does not need to take any action at this time on the development agreement. There will be a second public hearing that will coincide with second reading of the ordinance, and I would ask you to take action on the resolution at that time. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have about the development agreement, and also Ms. Gatzel is here to answer any questions as well.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
I'll go back and revisit. So in the development agreement, why isn't fire included in that, in an agreement like that, in such a comprehensive and massive project?
I don't know why fire wasn't included in 2018, and we certainly didn't address it here, but
Right.
with the roadway improvements, I do believe that will.
Well, I know they said decrease, but again, no quantitative figure to that, but what that actually means.
Well, when I called the fire chief and we had a Zoom about it, she does a calculation at some point in time. Like once she has the coordinates of all the roadways and they do their internal measurements, she can give an exact time. She hasn't had the opportunity to do that, which is why she sent the email confirming that it's definitely going to decrease those times. I'm sure that they have some mechanism to do that, but I just don't think that they've had the opportunity to do that yet.
I mean, I mean, again, this is Councilman Vera's district, and the fire and response time at K-Bar Ranch, if I've heard Mr. Vera mention K-Bar Ranch one time, I've heard him say it 100 times. So I mean, I'll defer to his expertise in this, but it just seems like a big missed opportunity here.
It's difficult too for one developer to affect fire response times because those are affected by so many different things. New developments that might go in, not K-Bar Ranch, or roadways that are built and new subdivisions that are in the area. So it would be hard for council, I think, to sort of require that you prove that you're going to reduce response times, because tomorrow things could completely change, right? That's a snapshot in time. And so many different things affect fire response times.
But I think we talk about, I know we liberally say fire, but it's the rescue aspect.
Yes,
I think the ambulance
I think she used the term emergency vehicle apparatus.
Because I mean, I think that's been one of the biggest concerns is the ambulance response times into the neighborhood has been a concern, which I think should be shared for everybody. But again, I'll defer back to Councilman Vera.
Yeah, so for Mr. Shelby, is there any way that we can inquire with Chief Tripp between now and when this comes back to us at all, or? And in terms of, what's been done, the direct effect of this, I mean, the truth is, if we're talking about when this road opens and allowing that cut through into K-Bar Ranch from Morris Bridge Road, and you have these additional homes, we don't know what the effect is gonna be. I see this as part of the overall solution, a piece of the puzzle for K-Bar Ranch, where, and this is my problem, is I don't want to, on this hearing, get into other issues that don't have any direct relevancy to the hearing, as a matter of hearing integrity, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, the fact is, this will help push this issue forward, and I think that's wonderful. In terms of how far fire rescue has gone in this, I'll talk to Mr. Shelby offline if I may, because again, I don't want to say something inappropriate that would sully the record on issues that have no procedural or substantive bearing on this. And we're not approving this today, correct? I mean,
It comes
just a
back.
public hearing, so.
We have a second hearing where we adopt the resolution.
Yeah, so I will inquire.
I think it's worth the discussion.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I was looking at the calendar, K-Bar Ranch is actually coming back to us. I pretty much motion for it every 6 hours in council. But it is, I know, right? But it is coming back to us. I have to look to see when it is. But I can talk to TFR offline between now and then. But again, I don't want to have that discussion publicly because I don't want to sully the record on.
I would recommend before you even do that you talk to the legal department to get the parameters.
I will.
Thank you.
I'll send an email right now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 3? We're not taking action tonight, this is just the first public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion closed from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Henderson, all in favor?
Aye.
And the hearing is closed. Go ahead, ma'am.
Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. Located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you for your time.
Item number 8.
St. Thomas Development Coordination, agenda item number 8 is REZ 2413, a request to rezone 3108, 3110, 3112, and 3114 West Varn Avenue from residential single-family 60 to planned development for residential single-family detached. I'll turn it over to Jennifer with the Planning Commission.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll be right back.
Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. We are back in the South Tampa Planning District. Here's the subject site. We are west of South McDill Avenue, along West Varn Avenue. We see there's a lot of single-family detached on this side of South McDill. There are some single-family attached on the other side of South McDill in the vicinity. The subject site is residential 10 along South McDill. The future land use pattern does increase to allow for some more intensification along that roadway. So we have residential 20 and then community mixed use 35, but the subject site itself is residential 10. We did find that the rezoning will allow for enhanced utilization of the land consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 10 future land use designation. It is requesting 4 single-family detached dwelling units, which is within the density allowable under the residential 10 future land use designation. And we did find that it will be comparable and compatible with this portion of West Varn Street, and that the applicant has planned in a manner that's consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and development pattern. So with that, I conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Some Thomas Development Coordination. We'll get started with the zoning map and aerial. So you can see the subject sites here outlined in red on West Varn Avenue. As Jen said, along West Varn and this general area, you have single-family detached homes. Then along McDill, you do have some multifamily here and here. At the end of West Varn and at the intersection of McDill Avenue, where this RM12 is, you actually do have some multifamily. It's 1 multifamily building and 2 single-family semi-detached buildings. Then you also can see that you have some CN zoning along McDill Avenue. Most of this CN zoning is either not developed or has been developed with single-family detached units. The plan development that you have here is approved for single-family semi-detached. Then as you move down, as you saw with the future land use map, it goes to community mixed use 35, so you have that CG zoning. The same as could be said with the CG zoning. Most of it's either developed with townhomes or single-family detached uses, or it's vacant. I think there is 1 CG use down here, and that's about it when it comes to the CG uses. These 2 PDs right here, just 1 block south of West Varn, are for single-family detached units. So we'll go on to the site plan provided by the applicant. So as Jen said, they are proposing 4 units. All 4 of the units are oriented towards West Varn Avenue with access from West Varn as well. Each has a 2-car garage, so 8 parking spaces are required and 8 are being provided. The proposed maximum building height is 35 feet. The applicant is proposing to remove 2 grand trees on lot 3, 1 here and here. This tree here on lot 3 is 26 inches and it is shown as being removed, but the applicant did work with natural resources, and between first and second reading, they will be making modifications to the site plan to save that tree. And then, as you can see, the remaining trees on site do have their minimum tree protective radius provided. So I'll move on to elevations now. These are the elevations provided by the applicant. Now we'll move on to some pictures of the subject site. So this would be the start of the subject site here, 3108, and then it moves on to the west. This is looking west along West Varn. So where this chain link fence starts here would be the end of the subject site, and then it runs all along here. This is east of the subject site, so this is 3108 here. You have a single-family detached unit next to it. This is looking east on Varn, so this would be McDill Avenue here. This is some of the multifamily in the RM12 that I mentioned earlier at the intersection of Varn and West McDill, or West Varn and South McDill Avenue. Here's another view of that multifamily and then the single-family detached structure that borders the subject site. We've turned back around and now we're looking west on Varn Avenue. Subject site starts here, and then it runs all the way down to about right here where the chain link fence and the black mailbox is. This is looking west on Varn again, so this is the subject site. It kind of gives you a better view of the site. And then this is, the subject site would be behind me here. This is looking north on the other side of West Varn Avenue with the single-family detached units that are across the street. And then one last view, this would be looking east. The subject site is right here. And then this is the one single-family detached structure that is on the site. The remaining parcels on the subject site are vacant. So the Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and find that it is consistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Should it be the pleasure of council to approve the application and the waivers identified on the staff report, further modifications need to be completed between first and second reading. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. Please say your name.
Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. The city staff, as well as the planning commission, have found this to be consistent. I wanted to show you a couple of things in the site plan first. We were, can you see all of that?
Yes, sir.
We were very sensitive to these two trees here, and as a result, we reduced the size of this unit, shifted it over 14 feet, so that we could accommodate the protective radiuses for those trees. We're also shifting to save that tree there. This is the tree that we're asking for removal and the waiver, and it's because it's in the tree removal zone. We looked for reasonable alternatives and site plan reconfigurations, and it simply wasn't possible. We saved these two trees over here by increasing the setback to 42 feet on this property and 38 feet on this property, and that enabled us to save those two trees. We also shifted these two properties forward to save these larger oaks in the back, so that the front yard setbacks are at 25 feet. And you know, we recognize that those are extraordinary setbacks, but in order to save them, we had to shift them around. The lots are about 7,500 square feet each, so they're very large, and we're providing 3,200, almost 3,300 square feet of green space for each of those lots. And it changes a little bit, but that's about the average. We are allowed to build 6 units by right according to the land use classification. We're proposing 4. That's also consistent with the development pattern in the area. Of the lots that you're looking at, there's very in close proximity, there's multifamily, there's also commercial, but we thought that not going with the townhouse style project or something like that, or duplexes, it was more consistent to have a single family residential development, which is what we're proposing. The staff also, as a mitigation consideration, we've agreed to increase the size of the caliper of the trees that are in the replacement matrix to 4-inch trees as a minimum, instead of the normal 2-inch trees. And we do have sufficient size on the property. We have sufficient location for those trees to be placed. We also looked at the development pattern. As I said, both the north and the south sides of Varn are consistent with what's being proposed this evening. We did, in terms of the criteria, promote the efficient and sustainable use of land. The applicant is proposing to remove the 2 non-hazardous trees. However, the applicant has designed the site and worked with natural resources extensively to preserve a 38-inch oak, 30 and 26 and 19-inch live oaks. And again, as I said, we've agreed to increase the replacement trees to a 4-inch caliper. With respect to the encourage the flexible use and development of the site, we think that we've worked very closely with the staff to develop a plan that is consistent with the development pattern, as well as conserving those trees as best we can. The segment of Varn and South McDill, is developed in single-family detached, with exception of parcels to the east, which is commercial, as I pointed out. In terms of respect to the waivers that are requested, we asked for the one, which is the removal of the 2 trees, and as additional mitigation, we were proposing the 4-inch replacement trees, as well as the ability to shift the site plans around to save and maximize the other trees and being able to maintain them. The land use designation is R10. As I said, 6 units could be built. We're proposing 4. And the subject site is, I mean, within this area, they're all developed in this basic same pattern. We're in the McDill Flight area, which also, we've considered that, and we've reduced the number of units in consideration of that. We're consistent with the goals and objectives and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan regarding city planning strategies. We're consistent with the McDill Air Force Base Plan, land use development regulations, goals and objectives and policies, overall residential development, redevelopment, single-family area redevelopment, adequate sites to accommodate housing needs, hurricane evacuation shelters, and the plan will be included. Provide multimodal options. The staff analysis was, basically, we're proposing a development pattern and a density which is consistent with the area. This is considered to be an underutilized parcel in the South Planning District, and as such, we're trying to meet some of the housing needs. Sidewalks are lacking in the area and will be provided as part of the development. With respect to both the north and the south block faces of this area, we are consistent with the development pattern. And again, we've worked with natural resources very carefully and closely to accommodate both on-site and off-site trees, and we provided those measures within our site plan. I have both the arborist report and the arborist pruning report that I'd like to have received and filed and made part of the record. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No? Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 8?
Motion closed. Motion closed.
We have a motion closed from Councilmember Clendenen, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Carlson, would you mind reading item number 8? Is there a revision sheet with the revision?
Gremlins. We're trying to get rid of the sound effects first. I'd like to move number 8, file number REZ 24-13.
Muted.
Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3108, 3110, 3112, and 3114 West Varn Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family detached, providing effective date including a revision sheet.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you very much.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading.
Unmuted.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18, 2024 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much.
Same time as Development Coordination. Agenda item number 9 is REZ 2422, a request to rezone 5016 North Florida Avenue and 104 West Wilder Avenue from Seminole Heights Residential and Seminole Heights Commercial Intensive to Seminole Heights PD for restaurant, bar, and/or lounge. I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff. We are in Seminole Heights, just off of North Florida Avenue and West Wilder Avenue. There's a variety of commercial uses along North Florida Avenue, some breweries and some restaurants in the area. I know this is a Dollar General right to the north of the subject site, but then as one moves west, this is single-family detached along West Wilder Avenue. So it is a commercial and then right down to single-family detached as one moves away from the corridor. So that is reflected on the future land use map. The future land use, there's two future land uses on the subject site. We have community commercial 35, that's the red, and then residential 10 is the orange color. The residential 10 is typically a single-family detached district, and we see that all along as we move off of the corridor. Planning Commission staff reviewed this with the comprehensive plan and found that it was consistent. This request, I'm sure the applicant and Sam will get into it a little bit more, But it's essentially to add a parking lot to service an existing restaurant, bar, and lounge in the Old Seminole Heights neighborhood. The proposed plan development is providing a sidewalk along West Wilder Avenue. That safe pedestrian connectivity is what we're really looking for when we review these, to be consistent with the policies in the comprehensive plan. And we also found that it met the policies regarding commercial development buffering. So they are meeting that 15-foot buffer requirement consistent with LU policy 9.3.1 and 15.2.4. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Tim Thomas, Development Coordination. We will get started with our aerial map. You can see the subject site is here outlined in red on Florida Avenue, and then the subject site outlined in red on Wilder Avenue. As Jen mentioned, you do have some commercial uses mainly along Florida Avenue, but you can see that those commercial uses do jog in a little bit into the residential area where it transitions to single-family neighborhood to the north, and then you also have a jog here down to the south, and that was kind of reflected on the future land use map that you saw with the CC 35 along Florida, and then the CMU 35 where you see these CG jogs in. And then as you move to the west, single-family detached, and then the same as you move east of the corridor here, you have Hillsborough High here, and then East Osborne Avenue to the south. I'll move to the site plan provided by the applicant. Before I jump into the site plan, I do want to provide a correction for the record. My staff report states that they are proposing an 8-foot PVC fence along the southern and eastern boundary, and instead of it being 8 foot, it's actually going to be a 6-foot PVC fence. So I just want to provide that for the record. So currently, this parcel is existing with a structure that is 2,709 square feet, and the entrances are oriented towards Florida Avenue. There will be no changes to this part of the site plan or part of the PD. There are 2 existing parking spots right here along Florida Avenue, and then you have some existing parking behind the building there. As Jen mentioned, the main change with this PD that is coming before you is the addition of this parcel and 20 new parking spaces with an entrance off West Wilder Avenue. To the west, you do have a 37-foot setback from the single-family detached homes and the parking spots. And then to the south, where the drive aisle is, you have a 15-foot setback from the single-family home to the south. Additionally, they are proposing on the south and the west a 15-foot buffer. And then along with that buffer, they are proposing a 6-foot fence that will go along the perimeter of the site. They are proposing a new sidewalk along Wilder Avenue that connects to the existing sidewalk here, so anyone parking here will have a pedestrian connection to enter into the building. They also do plan to add some bicycle parking on this part of the subject site as well. So now I will go into some photos of it after showing the elevations provided by the applicant. So here are the elevations provided by the applicant. So this is where the parking will be added. This is looking west on Wilder Avenue. You can see the single-family detached homes past the subject site. This is looking east on Wilder, so you have the existing parcel and structure here. This would be the new parcel there. You can see some of those commercial uses along Florida Avenue. This is looking south from Wilder Avenue at the subject site. This is looking north from the subject site, so you can see the single-family detached and then some of those existing commercial uses along Florida Avenue. This is looking a little bit farther east on Wilder Avenue. The subject site would be here. This is looking south. We're moving towards Florida Avenue now. So this is that existing parking back behind the existing building. You have the existing structure here. This is looking west on Wilder, so the existing property here, and then the addition of the new property there for the parking. This is looking south at the subject site with the existing structure. This is looking south along Florida Avenue. We have the subject site here. This is looking west at the existing structure on the subject site along Florida Avenue. This is looking north on Florida Avenue, the existing structure, and then the 2 parking spots that are existing along the front that I mentioned earlier. We're moving north along Florida Avenue, so this is the intersection of Florida and Wilder. So you can see the commercial use that exists right there on the opposite side of the subject site. And then lastly, this is the existing structure looking west down Wilder Avenue. So I will put the site plan back up for you all to see. Development Review and Compliance staff reviewed the application and found that the request is consistent. Should it be the pleasure of council to approve the waivers as identified in the report and approve the application, further modifications to the site plan must be made between first and second reading as stated on the revision sheet. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? Nope, thank you very much. Applicant, please state your name.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Isabel Albert for the record. I'm here representing the applicant, Veronica Danko, who is the owner of the Independence Bar. You have seen where the site is located. So I'm not used to it.
All the way up.
Oh, thank you. To zoom out? Yeah.
All the way. Zoom out.
I want to zoom out, yeah.
You're on the right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So as you saw, this plan development is including the existing Independence Bar and Cafe over here. And the reason why we're in here today is because we're requesting a parking area, additional parking to serve the patrons of the establishment. The reason why we have those two together as under one plan development is because we're applying a policy 5.1.6, which flexes the future land use onto the subject site in order to allow this commercial use within the residential 10 zoning district comprehensive plan. What we have here is this is where the access is going to be, is proposed, and the extension of the sidewalk, which will be connecting to the existing sidewalk for access to the establishment. You saw the pictures. The Independence Bar has been there, it's almost 15 years now, and it has quite a following, and I'm very excited actually to be part of this because I do attend there as well. This is the side of the structure where you have the existing parking space over here. And when the property next door came up for sale, the owner jumped on it because she knew there was a demand for parking. And she was very excited to see that when it did go up for sale, to provide that use for her establishment. So this is the site over here. There used to be a home there. It was tear down and cleaned up with the vegetation. Let's talk a little bit more about what we're proposing is the 50-foot landscape buffer with a 6-foot PVC fence. The retention pond is going to be located on this side in order to provide a greater distance between the existing home and the parking area. Quickly, the waivers are shown here, the distance and the distance between the parking lot and the drive aisle. But one that I do want to talk about is that 6-foot PVC fence. We contacted the neighbor next to the adjacent neighbor. There is no opposition to the 6-foot fence or the PVC. She did raise other concerns, and she is here tonight to raise her concerns, which I want to address afterwards. But overall, the Planning Commission staff and not development services, but all reviewing agencies found the request approvable and consistent with the comprehensive plan. And I'm here. Veronica could not make it, but someone that represents her is here if we have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? No? Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
So this is probably for legal staff. I have a question, and she kind of hinted about why the PD for planned development, restaurant and bar or lounge about the two properties. Is there, I know this is a PD, so that, you know, they'd have to come back if they wanted to do something else with another site plan. But is there any future entitlements associated with this because it's planned development, restaurant and bar or lounge to this property for expansion onto this property for some future date? That you would penetrate into the neighborhood with something other than a parking lot?
So since it is tied to the site plan and while the uses are covering the entire site plan, it's restricted to the building that is shown. So if they did want to expand outside of the scope of the existing structure, they would have to come back and re-PD it.
So why did they say, why is it PD, restaurant and bar or lounge? Because it's including the existing independent?
Yes, sir.
So they're just doing the entire?
Yeah.
So why, and I know the applicant said something about combining the two, why not just come and ask us for the parking lot as standalone?
So if they just came in and asked for the parking lot standalone, then one, you have the R10 future land use, which you have to have the CC35 future land use and the blending policy together to allow it. But say, for example, if it didn't have the R10 future land use and they just came in for parking, then that would open that parking up for them to be able to lease it out to any other businesses. As it is right now with this PD, only the independent is going to be able to use that parking. They're not going to be able to lease it out to any adjacent businesses.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? This is item number 9. Yes, ma'am? Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Alicia Howell, and I live in that jointed picture next to the property. And I'm coming with concerns because it's a residential area. And the concerns I have is that since this establishment have been there, like they said, 15 years plus, we have experienced, first of all, I'm going to break it down in 3 sections. Patrons. Patrons park on our streets and they block our driveways. We used to call up there, my husband, and ask them to move the cars. They didn't come out and move them. The second thing is that we get up and we experience trash. There's the napkins, there's the cups or whatever's out there. And what happens is no one from the establishment comes down and cleans up so it blows through our neighborhood. The second thing is their patrons has no respect for the residents. When we go out there, we ask them, you know, please don't move, don't park in the driveway. We try to put our garbage cans out there. We got some cones. They even have knocked them over and just pulled in anyway. The third thing is that they allow their customer to bring their dogs, which is okay, I have one, but then they allow them to use the bathroom and don't pick them up. So we're in the process of stepping in, walking into it because it's coming to our property and we have to pull our cars in. The second thing is, I grant them, yes, they did put up a fence. There was no objections. When they first saw the property down, the community, it was open. They were having sex, which was their patrons. We could hear it from our porch. And then when our dog went out, the light came on. Of course, you could see, you can only imagine. The other problem is with the patrons. They're not encouraged to use the overflow across the street, which there is an overflow, but they don't use it. They just come and pull up on West Wilder in front of our homes, in front of the property. And I do have pictures, but I didn't realize how to get them up there. That blocks our driveway. The safety, the way that they park, there is no way if an emergency vehicle come down, they can't get down the street because it's like that. And it's pretty much almost every Sunday or every other Sunday or whatever. That's just the way that it is. The lot that you saw is overgrown. It stays overgrown. I've called code enforcement. I've tried to get the guy to come out. He has come out and he said that the owner is going to get it done. But of course, she's so defiant that she cuts it like a day or two before it's time for before it's done. Then the third thing of it is that she does not take any responsibility. Our property is infested with the rodents, the rats, the roaches. Delivery trucks come down the street. They knock over the branches. They leave them in the road. There's always loud music on Saturdays and Sundays. Speeding is a problem. I've asked for a study to come down now that we have a light. We have local high school and middle school students walking, and it's not safety because there's no sidewalks.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Okay, we have nobody registered. Would you like to give rebuttal, ma'am?
Thank you. Again, for the record, it is Isabel Albert with HAF. So I want to show you something. Just along Florida Avenue, there's a lot of up-and-coming businesses, and people are coming, and it has been an issue about the parking. So the owner, I don't know if you can see right here, okay? Thank you. I'm gonna put this up here. This is basically what it is.
All right.
And she's put these signs at the entrance, right past her business. She's put these signs there and says, please don't go past this area. This is a residential neighborhood. We have to respect them. Could you please do that? Whether these are her patrons or not her patrons, she's at least put the effort to say, this is not okay. Can you please try to do that? Also, if you look through the music, the contract music in there, if you don't mind just pulling that up, please. In there, the music is from 6:30 to 8:30. Again, please respect, this is a neighborhood bar. And you can see, it's somewhere around
let's
here
get
that
it
you
up
can
on
show
our
very
screens
quickly
down
where it
here.
is. Oh yeah, we are a small neighborhood bar cafe, no full-time music performance, trying to be, you're a guest, enjoy the music, consider it for our neighbors.
Can we get it
Oh.
up on our screens here? We can't really see what's on the overhead. There we go, thank
There,
you.
Sorry. So right around here, you'll see we have to consider our neighbors, please be careful. Again, here, we're a small neighborhood bar,
Can you
be
put this in
respectful.
context? Where is this published? What are we looking at?
This is part of the contracts that's sent to the musicians. So if you want to play music there, these are the rules. It's from 6:30 to 8:30. They may go over for a finish last, blah, blah, blah. But, she has put in writing also to take into consideration of the neighbors' piece. The other item that was brought up that we can address, again, the no encouragement of the overflow parking, that's what that sign was. It says, don't go past this, use the overflow parking, please. So they do talk about that. Not taking responsibility for her property, you saw, it's a very beautiful, upkept building. She's been there for 15 years. And the parking area will be nicely paved and landscaped and everything. And so with that, if you have any other questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Any questions? We have a motion closed from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Vieira?
Yes.
Move an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5016 North Florida Avenue and 104 West Wilder Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification SHRS Seminole Heights Residential Single Family and SHCI Seminole Heights Commercial Intensive to SHPD Seminole Heights Planned Development Restaurant and Bar Lounge, providing an effective date.
And with the revisions?
Yes.
And we have a second from Councilmember Hurtak. Councilmember Clendenin.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the neighbor about the issue, is that I appreciate, and is she still here? Did she leave?
Yes.
So I appreciate the input, provided, but a lot of those issues that you talked about was the existing business and not the expansion of what we're doing here tonight. And hopefully, with what they're doing, rezoning is one of the questions that I asked about, this property and future impact. I think we got a good answer from staff that it's protections for you and your neighborhood as well for any kind of further encroachment into the single-family neighborhoods. And this is a good transitional piece of property now, so that it'll be more of a buffer from the single-family neighborhood. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to support this. Hopefully, again, this is going to fix some of those problems you just called out. As they maintain that parking lot and they've got that big wide landscape buffer from your property and the fence. Hopefully, this will improve the quality of life. And this is kind of what we're going to have to do along these commercial corridors, is figure out a way to create these step-down type of densities and properties to protect the single-family neighborhoods and from the commercial development, which we're probably gonna see more of along these areas, because this is areas where we're looking to put in transit and hopefully develop and make it more livable for a lot more folks. So thank you. But we heard what you said, and hopefully this will actually improve it for you. Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Clendenin,
Yes.
Henderson. Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda,
No.
Carlson. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Henderson and Miranda voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Items 10 and 11 will be heard together. Is that correct, ma'am?
We'll hear item 10 and vote, and then we'll open item 11 and then
Okay.
vote.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you
Item
so
number
much, Chairman and Council. LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. Item 10 is REZ 2423. This is for property that is a part of Hidden River. This is for 8748 Hidden River Parkway, 14090 River Edge Drive, and Folio 034776.1204. This is a request to rezone 3 parcels that are located within the overall Hidden River development. So currently, the property is on PDA. It was approved in 2015 under REZ 1514. It allows for the uses of medical and business professional office, retail sales, hotel, and residential uses. And this PDA request would allow for the office, business professional, and medical uses, research activity, clinic, retail sales, hotel, residential multifamily, and single-family attached uses. Hidden River is an overall development, and just to show you just quickly, this is the site plan submitted, and this is similar to the PDA you heard earlier. So this is an overall PDA. This is the boundary of Hidden River. This is I-75 that borders on the east. This is Fletcher Avenue that's to the south. And you can see each color represents some portion of a rezoning. So through the years, the parcels have been rezoned, PDA rezonings, and then they come through for incremental review. So what is before you today is a PDA rezoning. It's for the parcels that are identified on the site plan in red. So this is Tract C, and this is one of the areas contained within this request. This is Tract D, a portion of Tract D, that red area, and then Tract G, and a portion of that, this red area. And those are the 3 areas contained within this particular PDA today. But it's just to show you over time, the rezonings have occurred. So what I'll do is turn it over to Jennifer to give her report, and I'll come back and give my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff. There is an error on our report, so if I may, I'd like to submit a revised report into the record. For the record, the error erroneously stated that the applicant had to make a change between first and second reading for some numbers. I went over it with the applicant, and sometimes you can look at numbers too long, I think is what happened there. So we were taking that close of a look on it, and the applicant let us know where we were misunderstood, so we revised accordingly. So LaShawn's already given a very good overview of where the site is, so I won't belabor it. But this is the overall Hidden River development. We're in New Tampa, and it is suburban mixed use 6. So that's like a pale pink color, suburban mixed use 6. Some of the part 1 parcel up here in the northeastern corner is suburban mixed use 6, and there's a little bit of environmentally sensitive areas up here, which is a future land use designation, delineating those potential wetlands on the subject site. Excuse me, for the record, not delineating the potential wetlands, but rather illustrating where potential wetlands might be present on the future land use map. It's a more accurate way of describing that. So as we stated in our staff report, development within or near these areas is subject to regulations imposed by federal, state, and or local environmental authority. And we have many policies that support the protection of those areas. And the notes the applicant has put on the site plan, we do feel meets those policies. The lands within the suburban mixed-use 6 category are designated as being within a mixed-use center and corridor. And so since this is a planned development alternative and there's not a lot of detail here, our report just states that we'd like to see the applicant meet those mixed-use policies at the time that they bring in the incremental review, and the building orientation and placement is reviewed by staff. So we did find that the request before you today is consistent with that underlying future land use category of suburban mixed use 3. They're not exceeding the density request through this plan development, which is very important. And so we did find that it was consistent with the plan and the underlying category. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Council LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. And the PDA request, this rezoning will allow for an increase in the residential unit count from the current 900 unit cap to 1,100 units. And so this development would consist of residential, single-family attached, and multifamily development. So the lot itself, these 3 tracts of land, tracts C, G, and D, those portions thereof, contain 31.4 acres. Hidden River's overall development is comprised of 479 acres. The maximum building height allowed within the development area is 30 feet. The property is currently vacant, and I'll show you on some of the photos to show. The setbacks are established as a condition within the site plan. The front setback is at 20 feet, the rear setback is 20 feet, the side yard setback is at 1 feet. So I'd like to show the aerial of this location. So again, this is I-75 on the east, this is Fletcher Avenue to the south. To the west, this is Lettuce Lake Park. And this is Hillsborough River that runs along the north. So this is the overall boundary of Hidden River. And so the request is the parcels that are identified in red. This is parcel C. This area is parcel D, and then this is a part of parcel G. So I'll show you the site photos. In addition to the allowable residential unit count, this is a PDA plan development alternative, so the applicant will submit for incremental site plan review prior to permitting. At that time, the site is reviewed for the entitlements that are granted through the PDA. So an overall entitlements table will be provided to show the drawdown and what is remaining as far as the entitlements. Hidden River is a part of the DRI. So the next item on the agenda is an amendment to that DRI. It's a notice of proposed change, and that's filed NPC 2202, so you'll hear that item next. But on this site plan, on the actual aerial, what I'll show you is just the entrance to Hidden River. Site D, you cannot access. You can only go up to the north portion of River Edge Drive, so I'll just show a couple of photos there. Then I'll swing around to parcel D and show you photos from Hidden River Parkway, and then from Park Edge, we'll look at parcel G. But they're all wooded, so. This is the entrance to Hidden River. This is from the south, heading to the site, to the north portion of the site. So this is east of Tract C, of parcel C. This is on River Edge Drive, so part of the corporate park. This is east of the northern site. So the site is really behind this area that's located in this picture. So this is also, the site is on the left. So this is the north end of that road, River Edge. So now we go over to parcel D. This is the site that's on Hidden River Parkway. And this is the east end of the site of parcel D. That's looking south. It's the same thing, looking south, another view of the site. This is across the street from parcel D, which is also vacant. This is south of Track D, Parcel D. I'm sorry, I'm using them interchangeably. This is the hotel that's located on Hidden River Parkway at Fletcher. And then this is the northwest end of the site. That's on, this is Track G on Park Edge. That's the northwest portion of the site of Track G. And this is north. That's the northern portion of the site. And this is west of the site, which is Lettuce Lake Park. And staff has reviewed the request and finds the request consistent. There are site plan modifications to be made between first and second reading. I have a revised revision sheet that I will provide into the record. And also, since the site is heavily wooded, but I would like to turn it over to Erin and she can review her natural resources findings, if I may. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Okay. Erin Mayer, Development Coordination. I'm just going to speak to some of the conditions of the site that exist out there. So this is REZ 2423. As LaShawn said, it's a PDA. So we did find the project consistent right now, consistent with conditions, as the PDA does not require a detailed site plan at this stage. So at the time of incremental review, the applicant will need to meet the requirements of the code regarding wetlands, grand trees, tree retention, and other applicable NR code sections. No waivers are requested at this time. So this is the image on the screen is just a picture of Track G looking southwest from the northwest side of the parcel. So it's pretty heavily wooded site. So just to orient you again, I made this so it's not as good as LaShawn's map, but on the west side you have Lettuce Lake Park. This is Track G here, Track C here, and Lot 3 of Track D here in the center. And those are the three being considered on this PDA, Fletcher to the south and Interstate 75 to the east. And then this is just a little bit of a zoomed in aerial of what the site looks like out there. So they are all heavily wooded sites. And you can see this is Track G on this site right here. It's 12.68 acres. There's approximately 2/3 of the site are wetland. We don't have the, confirmed delineations at this time. They'll come in at the time of incremental. But this is about the line of where the wetlands are located. So the site here is wetland. 1/3 of the site approximately is wooded uplands, and you'll see some photos of that in a second. There's approximately 587 trees in these wooded uplands alone. That does not include what's in the wetland. So the requirement of the code is to meet multifamily. Depending on the type of residential use, you have to either meet 40% or 50% of the fair or better quality trees on the site to be preserved. And then all of that also will apply to Track D Lot 3, which is a lot smaller, and only about 1/4 of this site is wetlands, and the rest of it is more of uplands. So this is an image of Track G. This is looking west from the eastern edge of the uplands, like standing inside the tract. It's a majority live oak and palmetto forested uplands. It's also mixed with some pine and some other oaks as well, and some other species of trees too. So the applicant does have the ability to request a variance for the 40% or 50% tree retention at the time of incremental. Any grand non-hazardous tree in the uplands would require a variance for removal if that was necessary. Track G here. So this is standing to the north of Track G, looking south into the tract, and this is just showing what some of these wetlands look like. So any wetland impacts would require approval from the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County at the time of incremental review. And Hidden River does require a 30-foot wetland buffer. So that is also a condition of the PDA. And then this is tract C, so another heavily wooded site out here. This site is 16.38 acres, and wetlands are approximately 9 acres of tract C, so a little bit more than half the site. And you can see this is sort of the line where the wetlands are. Again, they'll be confirmed at the time of incremental review. But there are about 700 trees in these uplands down here. And again, the multifamily or the type of residential use it is would require a 40% or 50% of fair or better trees preserved to meet code requirements. This is tract C, some images of the site. Half again are wetlands. There are 4 non-hazardous grand trees that exist on this site. One of them is here. This is on the eastern edge of the parcel. The applicant can request a variance to remove a grand non-hazardous tree at the time of incremental, and they can also request a variance for tree retention. So this is another image of that tract. So the northern part of that parcel is wetlands, just over 9 acres. And any wetland impacts would be reviewed by the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County. The wetland buffer, again, must be 30 feet wide. So this is just an image of tract G looking from the existing retention ponds towards the south. So there's no detailed site plan required for this PDA. So we are consistent with conditions, for that reason, no waivers are currently requested, but I'm here if you have any questions.
Councilmember Clendenin?
So Hidden River has a 30-foot, specifically for Hidden River from wetlands. And so plus with the EDC review, because there's a 30-foot for Hidden River, there really would be no potential negative impact on the wetland areas, correct?
I mean, I cannot answer that question.
Well, if there's a 30-foot setback from wetlands required.
The applicant, they can request to impact wetlands. That's up to Environmental Protection Commission.
Who enforces the 30-foot for Hidden River?
We do. We would enforce the 30-foot wetland buffer, however.
So that would, again, even if the EDC said we still have a 30-foot.
Yes, if there's wetlands, they would require 30-foot.
So we would still retain control of that.
The buffer, yes, correct.
Okay, so you can't have a buffer from an impacted area if you're, so it seems like it's am I wrong? Is that adequate protection for us, for our interest?
No, 30-foot is a good buffer, certainly for a wetland. Our code requires 25 feet. Hidden River has, a greater than our code requires, which is, an excellent thing out here. These wetlands have been there a long time. So, yeah, the natural beauty is like one of the things, that makes Hidden River.
So I know we talked, this was Lettuce Lake Park to the west. What's to the north?
The Hillsborough River. Well, there's like.
So that space between the Hidden River and the river, who owns it?
This area here.
Yes.
It's a floodplain that I don't know who owns that property.
Okay.
We own that. Oh, you own it, okay. There's a conservation easement on it. Okay, so there's a conservation easement on this land out here.
And can you say, what would that be?
What would that be?
Conservation easement for those of us that.
Oh, they put the land into protection.
In perpetuity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you. And I did want to just state for the record, no question at this time. I know I've spoken to Mr. Shelby about it, that I did receive a message that I sent over to my city account from Mr. Mike Ascuti on this, and we did not, I sent that over and we didn't substantively discuss this case at all, but I just, out of transparency, just wanted to say that. So that was submitted on Sunday, I think. So that's all, just for the record. Thank you.
All right, applicant.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Council. Catherine O'Donnell Sternberg, for the record. And I want to really drill down on, there's kind of two things happening here. One is I would classify as non-substantive, so I'll touch on that briefly. This plan really needed a lot of updates, clarification, since it hasn't been touched since 2015. Susan Johnson was our DRI coordinator who retired, and so we worked really closely with staff to just make things a bit clearer. So previously the plan had no color coding on it, for example. It was getting really, really challenging to actually read. And we also added a lot of data, prior incremental reviews, the current snapshot of entitlements that remain on the property. So that was kind of actually most of the work that we did on this rezoning application with staff, was just to update and make the plan a bit clearer to read. And then speaking to the substance of what we're requesting, all three of these sites are already entitled, and they're entitled for all of these uses. So Hidden River actually has about 1.4 million square feet remaining of office. It also has 95,000 square feet of retail and a little bit of residential. So what this request would do is allow us to simply trade off through an existing equivalency matrix to achieve up to 200 additional units on those sites. But we are not, however, asking for any new land use on those sites or anything that would create another impact. We also have available members of our team. We have our environmental specialist and our engineer who can speak further to this, but I hope that that helps clarify the scope of what we're requesting, and I can certainly provide more information if you have questions.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So, do you have a site plan you could put up? Because it's just something.
Yes, you know what, maybe I could grab this one that's smaller. Yeah. Sure.
Oh, that's the one, yeah, that's the good one. It's got a lot of color,
All the
so.
colors.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
the
helpful. I
colors
love
help.
color. So the one to the north,
Yes,
that,
this one on track C.
yes. So were all three tracks already could have residential?
Correct.
And what my understanding was, is you're reducing the amount of square footage for office.
Exactly, and so just for example, if we were to trade off to achieve those 200 units, it would be about 56,000 square feet of office out of 1.4 million. And so the request is very nearly tailored. It's a very minor request compared to the scope of the whole project. So it's just these three parcels that are about 30 acres, and then the equivalent of about 56,000 square feet of office.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No? Anything else in your presentation, ma'am?
I do just want to mention that we're going to get to the DRI next, but the applicant is also the developer of record, and they have been involved at Hidden River since its inception in 1985, and have been really good stewards with amazing projects there, like the VA clinic. We have about 1.2 million square feet of office and 3 other residential projects, hotel, et cetera. So it's nice to see that continuity, and those are the same applicants that I'm representing.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 10? Please come on up. And I believe were you all sworn in?
Yes. Yes.
And the gentleman behind you?
No, the gentleman behind him.
He was not sworn in? All right, we'll swear you in when you come up, so go ahead, sir.
Hey, good
Please
evening.
say your name.
Good evening. My name is Mike Escudier. I'm the person that texted Councilman Vieira. I was his stalker last week. I don't know who his stalker this week is, but it's not me. But I do believe in the Sunshine Law. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I'm Mike Escudier, and I live near Lettuce Lake Park and next to the planned development. My concern regarding items 10 and 11 on the agenda are that the process remains collaborative, constructive, and transparent. Collaborative for all stakeholders, the developers, the city of Tampa, and its residents. We hope that our concerns be acknowledged by this council and the developers. The site is lush, verdant, and has hundreds of trees. And I don't know if you can see this on the screen.
We can't.
No, you
It's
can't. That's
very
okay.
dark.
It's a turtle who last week on Park's Edge Drive was birthing some eggs and all that. If you walk down Park Edge Drive, I've, in the 3 years I've lived there, ran into deers. Right now in the twilight, there's a bunch of rabbits there. And we're coexisting with the area, which is right next to the Hillsborough River. I think it was said before me, the area is lush and it's beautiful. And Hidden River is known for its natural beauty based on its location. It's a very unique area, and we're very keen to keep it as pristine as possible. In the interest of time, I will highlight my concerns, including environmental protection and compliance, traffic growth measures that are commensurate and responsive. And I mean to say, this is on Fletcher Avenue, and if you've been on Fletcher Avenue in the morning or the afternoon or any time, Fletcher Avenue is not going to be widened up next to Lettuce Lake Park. And by the way, they're building a USF stadium there too, but that's for another discussion. We're excited about that. But, and the other issue is that Tampa Fire Department and Tampa Police Department are not overstrained, exactly like the K-Bar Ranch. My colleague, my neighbor, can show you locations of Tampa Fire and Tampa Police, and that we are concerned that these departments will be overstrained as other areas in our district have been in the past. Looking ahead, if this request is approved on items 10 and 11 tonight, we will be vigilant in monitoring the progress of this development and its impact on the quality of life we currently enjoy in the city of Tampa. I didn't say from the beginning that I am opposed to this rezoning effort. I do have a question for the applicant, and my question, and I'm done, is the discussion of trade-off of 200 new residents and commercial space. Is that wishful thinking, or is that going to be baked in before you approve it? Is the applicant going to say, we will have that offset or trade-off? And that's a testament to let you know that everyone who speaks in my neighborhood, we looked at the staff reporting and combed over for our concerns. So I'd like the council to hold the applicant to whether that trade-off is wishful thinking or it's going to be baked into the rezoning request.
Thank you
for
very
your
much,
time.
sir. Yes, sir, next speaker. Please state your name.
Andy Rivero. Thank you, council. Good evening. Council, I've lived at Hidden River since I was 21. It was the first home that I bought. And I just want to state for the record, I am opposed to, if I could, just the building overall, but I know that they already have permits, so now the question is just the variance. I want to state for the record that I've seen that the other applicants were very engaged with their communities. We haven't gotten anything from this applicant. I know it's very early on. They don't even have to submit a site plan to you. But my question on something that I'm very ignorant on, but you guys know a lot more and then you have a very competent staff, is why don't they have to submit, why do you have to make a decision and approval on something that is kind of conceptual? I'm just confused about that, and I would want council, for you, as the other meetings go and the phasements come in, if you could please just push a little bit more so that we can have that information publicly available to us, and if the applicant could really engage with the community, because we are active, and like how Mike said, we really like the community that we live in. I have my phone here. I took a picture of the wetland. I walked through it. It's pretty cool. I mean, sorry to use my Gen Z language, but one thing
Cool
about,
is not Gen Z.
you know, not being formal. But so aside from the wetlands being beautiful, council, I have this picture of my backyard of this very scary water moccasin. Wow. So we really do coexist with the wildlife here. But I bring up the water moccasin for a reason. I protect me and my dog from it, and I want to bring that to the emergency services that we had spoken about previously. So I made a map. It's not going to be as good as any of the staff, but if you can see, council, very quickly, here's my house. Well, here's our house. Here's the wetlands in question of the two plots. Here's Lettuce Lake. Nature has no distinction on what's Lettuce Lake and what's this plot, council. And what this wetlands means to me is that in every hurricane that's ever happened, I've never had to evacuate. Those wetlands just suck up the water. So my question is, when they're building, what's going to happen there? Sure, they're going to put in man-made pipes and stuff like that, but the wetlands does it for free, council. You don't have to upgrade it. You don't have to do anything to it. Mother Nature does it by itself. So going back to emergency response, we have a fire station here, but it's Temple Terrace. It doesn't serve us. If a fire response came, it would come across Lettuce Lake with no cross street. I'm almost done. They can't cross through Lettuce Lake unless they have a helicopter, so they have to go all the way down, cross Fletcher, which in peak traffic could take 25 minutes. With no traffic, it's about 13 minutes. And if they hopped on the highway, they could cut some time, assuming that there's no traffic there either. Same thing, oh, it disappeared. Oh, same thing, around here, Council, is the police station on Fletcher. They don't service either. Around 30th Street and Bruceby Downs, 30th Street and Bush is where the police station is. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. Sir, you wanted to speak, but you were not sworn in, so when you come up, we'll swear you in. Had anybody else come in that was not sworn in that is going to be speaking tonight? Yeah, please stand.
I'm attending online. I'm not sure how can I express.
You'll be after the in-person people
Okay.
speak, I'll go to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Good evening,
raise your
council.
hand.
How we doing?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Am I good to go?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Please say your
Evening,
name.
council. Thank you for taking the time and listening to me tonight. As my neighbors also.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Eddie Feliciano. I'm here in regards to MPC 2202. For the record, I want to state that just like my neighbors, I am against the project. I have been a resident in Hidden River Parkway ever since 2014. It is a place that I chose to live in because as I wanted to be a part of the Tampa community, I also wanted to have a place that had the ability to be like you're a part of nature. And that's been the quality of life that we've been able to enjoy there for all this time. But I want to highlight some very specific concerns that we have that this project could directly bring to us who live there. The number one concern that I have is when I looked at the application, I saw that the traffic analysis was actually performed in 2021, 2022, and, we're in 2024. Since then, I believe 2 residential communities have been finished. As Mike stated earlier, Fletcher is not going to get any bigger. And as it stands today, when it comes to the morning or the afternoon, there is really no moving around Fletcher, especially when USF is in session. I mean, everybody goes around there. Traffic gets already pretty tough. But I think that one of the things that I found concerning in that analysis, besides the fact that it was done so far back, is the fact that office hours were not considered into this analysis. So the applicant stated that they wanted to, trade off for 200 more units. How many more residents is that? And how is that going to affect not only the traffic patterns, but the quality of life that we already enjoy? Everybody who lives there currently is able to, jog around the area, walk around pretty comfortably, and continuously experience nature. You get to see different animals, deer, water moccasins, turtles, gators, all sorts of stuff. Literally, like, they walk through the road and come into our little lake. So I think that the effect that having the amount of people that they're trying to bring in would have on the quality of life is very concerning, and it makes me oppose this project. As I said it before, the environmental impact is huge. I understand that there's always a push to increase density, but at what time do we say that's enough? This area that's highly environmentally sensitive is right next to the Hillsborough River. So if we keep altering this area, not only will it affect those who live there, but everybody who lives downstream of the Hillsborough River. And lastly, I just want to state that security is a concern. When the last communities were finished, we experienced a pretty big crime spree in Club at Hidden River, and we don't want to go through that again. So with that, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that is going to be speaking on this item? If not, I'm going to go to the online speaker. We need to swear you in, Dorota Marguerite.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please raise your right
Can you
hand and we're
hear
going to
me
swear you
fine?
in. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, please state your name. Go ahead.
Good evening, council members. My name is Dorota Marguerite, and I'm a resident of the Hidden River community, which is next to one of the parts of the development. And I'm here to express also, like my neighbors, concerns about the proposed development of increased traffic to the area and how it will impact our quality of life and especially the environment. This is a proposal of 200 additional multifamily units in the area. So I think the population increase and density will be significant. And just to mention here that there were multiple changes. I think it was emphasized earlier to the original development plan for this area, and all of them were actually approved, but there were no specific or significant improvements to the roads, infrastructure, or other essential services. So my main concern in here is the environmental impact and how this development will affect the wildlife, the ample trees, as I think everybody saw how beautiful those trees are, and diverse wildlife that we have in those wetlands in the area. The proximity to the Lettuce Lake Park, also known for its rich wildlife, makes it really important, I think, to protect those natural resources and trees that have been really preventing any flooding in our neighborhood. This increased population density and traffic will no doubt harm these environmental sensitive areas. My other concern is also the emergency response time. The other population and traffic could definitely have some negative impact and delays. I actually do have personal experience. Not long time ago, I saw a motorbike accident or Park Edge Drive, which is exactly where that development is going to be. And it took 15 minutes for the ambulance to arrive in the evening without no traffic. So I think that's quite concerning, I think, with the increased population and how it could worsen for any emergency response in case of additional traffic. And finally, there's been a lack of community engagement and communication from developers. I think this is quite important because, of course, transparency, open communication is something that we would love to see. Unfortunately, the developer has not reached out to our local community to gather any feedback or address any concerns. So that's something I think quite disappointing. I think that's overall what I would like to say, and I do appreciate your time and consideration for those concerns.
Thank you very much. Anybody else before we go to rebuttal? Okay, ma'am, if you have rebuttal at this time. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Mrs. Sternberg.
Sure.
Can you just remind us, I know you went over this at the beginning, but can you just remind us what the current entitlement is for these areas? And the decisions were made like back in the 80s or whenever, and so this is not a decision between a beautiful forest and development, isn't it? A decision between less development or more development, something like that. Can you just describe that to us, please?
Thank you. That's a really thoughtful question. And I just want to start by saying that it's really unfortunate. I never heard from any of you all. And I can submit into the record. I always keep a log and copies of emails with anyone I communicate with on a project. I had one person call me and we talked about what was going on, and I have an email where I transmitted the site plan and followed up, and there were no concerns. So I really wish that you all obviously were aware. We could have spoken about it, because I think many of the things stated just bear no relationship to what we're talking about. And that's correct, Councilman. The entire Hidden River project, including these specific parcels, are already heavily entitled. We have a huge excess of entitlements. And in fact, traffic monitoring was just performed in 2023. That was submitted to the city in October of 2023, and it showed that we were below even 50% of like the threshold for our trip generation. So there's just a huge gap between both what's developed now, what we're entitled for, and that includes transportation thresholds. Does that help?
So we saw pictures of beautiful forests. If we did nothing today, what could you build by right? Is there any chance you would leave it as forest, or would it be something there by current entitlements?
It's obviously available to develop. And once I go through some of these points, I will also ask our environmental consultant to speak a little bit more about that topic, because actually, if we are allowed the opportunity to trade for residential, this is actually a bit less impactful because of the building style. You can work around trees more so than office, for example, which we could go forward with tomorrow. So after I just go through a couple, is that a little bit more on point? I'll go through a couple more items that were brought up, and then I would love to have Abby Naylor come and speak a bit more on that because it was raised several times. So I want to emphasize again, we have no waivers. There are no waivers on the site plan. We will comply with code, EPC, SwiftMud. Not only that, the taggarts, the applicant, we have been through this process before many times, and there actually has not ever been a variance filing. I've never represented them in a variance after we've gone through a PDA rezoning. Someone specifically mentioned push to increase density. Again, that's not at all what this application is about. In terms of increase of traffic, I know your transportation staff also reviewed our traffic counts, so perhaps we could call upon that expertise to just confirm what I stated about the October 2023 information that was submitted. In terms of, also I want to mention historically, so in 2015, we did almost an identical rezoning, and we also did in 2013. Those were just tweaks to say we're gonna trade off within the permitted use. And I actually wanna put up for you, there was a reference made to this concern that we won't trade off uses. We have to, and we always have. Any project that has functioned through trade-off, like the last two multifamily projects, the VA clinic, we exercised those rights and provided the math to the city to confirm that we followed this permitted conversion rate. And then you'll see it in the DRI as well. But you can see here we have, it's reiterated on the plan as well as the development order that these 1,100 residential units are only available through reduction in corresponding uses. And that's always been the case. There's no change whatsoever today to that. So I think at this point I would like to ask Abby Naylor to come up and just speak a little bit to you all briefly about kind of her perspective, and we will, of course, after approval, we'll do what we've done with every other project in Hidden River and go through not only incremental review, but go through the process with EPC and SwiftMud. And so Abby will be the expert who is handling that piece of this development down the road.
Hi, good evening, Abby Naylor. I absolutely wanted to address some of the comments that we've received. I heard wildlife and trees. I do want to point out that the taggarts have been extremely great. The applicant has been extremely great stewards of Hidden River. There's a lot of talk of the deer and the wildlife and everything that's present. That's because they've done an amazing job preserving pockets throughout, not to mention the 170 acres of conservation area that's preserved adjacent to the Hillsborough River that they own. So they're very cognizant in how they've developed the land since the 80s. And regulations have changed significantly. So the fact that there was a lot of that mindset back in the 80s to develop land in that manner, that was really thoughtful to how we implement development today. Something that Catherine brought up was that in terms of our existing entitlements, we could go today and develop, significant amount of commercial. In terms of working through the site plan and having worked through a lot of site plans, both commercial and residential, it's a lot easier to work around things when you've got apartments or residential uses, as opposed to, you know, a large office building where you've got, you know, much greater potential parking requirements. You know, a building can't be kind of moved around in lieu of apartment buildings where you might have multiple apartments. We do have to comply with multiple agencies in addition to the city of Tampa regulations. We'll have to go through EPC and work through avoidance and minimization of any potential impacts we might need for wetlands. We are held to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission protections for wildlife, water management district. So we've got a lot of, this is our first step in evaluating, you know, how we're going to use the land.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Councilmember Vieira, and then Councilmember Clendenin, and then Councilmember Hurtak.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. We appreciate it. The question was asked about the trade-off between commercial and residential, and whether or not that was baked in or binding. Could you respond to that?
Yes, it is baked in and binding. It is part of the development order. It is already exists, and we're required to follow it. The site plan also makes clear reference that we can only reach that number through trade-off, so it appears in multiple places. And again, we also have a 100% track record of following prior similar adjustments to the pool, successfully trading them off, respecting the trade-off mechanism that's required of us. And I can't imagine the city of Tampa would let us come in without doing so.
Thank you for that. Another thing is, you mentioned the neighborhood that's here. I hate to put people on the spot for this in terms of would you meet, but would you be willing to meet between first and second reading with these folks to, you know, talk about some issues? Is that, and that in no way sways my vote one way or the other, just an inquiry.
Sure, of course, I'm happy to speak with them. That's why I said I wish, instead of kind of just coming here to talk about the things, we could have maybe had a discussion beforehand to understand what the application is about and what it's not about. So of course, I really wish they had reached out prior, because basically everything said was really not on point to this application.
Okay, and then lastly, this isn't really necessarily a question for you, but in terms of this is something I'd like to get on voting, is we have Fire Station 24, there's gonna be plans for that near Whiteway, and we have advanced that maybe 2 months ago. So it's interesting in this, and I'm stepping a little bit outside of this hearing into the last one, which is, you know, since I've been in Tampa City Council, I think this will be the third fire station that we've gotten at or near my district, 23, 24, and 25. So that is something just to address some of the comments that were made with regards to fire rescue. I can check on that offline aside from this, but that's all. And
Thank you for that information.
Somebody's going to slap their hand.
A lawyer slapping a lawyer. There you go.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Wells?
She's not pleased.
No, I heard that. Thank you, Kate Wells, for the record. Just with regard to the comments about the fire station, that really goes beyond the scope of this hearing, and to the extent that any council member wants to reach out to Chief Tripp directly, I would ask that you not. That, you know, we can have those conversations separately, but I just want to make sure that the process that applies to quasi-judicial hearings continues, and that those issues that go beyond a rezoning, that the handling of that doesn't cloud how these hearings are conducted.
And thank you, Ms. Wells. Very, very well taken. That's what happens sometimes when I say what I'm thinking. So yeah, thank you very much for that. We appreciate that.
Hey, that's usually my role.
Right. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Clendenin and Hurtak.
This is pretty much for, I think, city staff, environmental. So there's some questions, one implying about the difference in retention from commercial development versus residential. Like they still have the same tree retention requirement, whether it's developed commercially or residential, correct?
Aaron Mayor Development Coordination, no, if you're developing commercial, you actually only preserve 25% of the trees on the site. Fair or better quality trees.
Interesting. Okay, and who enforces that? With residential, the 50% requirement, or 40 or 50% requirement, where does that enforcement come from?
Well, at the time of incremental review,
Okay,
we would be reviewing that.
okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Hurd.
Thank you. I appreciate Councilman Vieira's question about meeting with the community, and I would definitely recommend, maybe hosting something at their site just to kind of give them the understanding. Because what I kind of want to let the folks know that a PDA it's even complicated for us. It's very odd that we have two of these in one night, because PDAs are usually just very large sites, and what they do is they give entitlements. They say, you can put this much on a site. And so right now, they already have the entitlements to build all of the stuff that you're concerned about. So hopefully during the meeting, you'll be able to understand a little bit more what the goal is. And so my question for you is, how far along are you in the entitlements for this site?
So in terms of what's built versus what remains, sure. So we have, again, about 1.4 million square feet of office, just over that remaining. There's about 1.2 million constructed. There's about 95,000 square feet of retail remaining and about 20,000 or so constructed. There are 301 hotel rooms, and there are, I think it's about 750 residential units.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, just to give a scope, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
For clarification on that, so how much, when you barter away the commercial development of this, how much is left of commercial?
1.423 million minus about 56,000 square feet.
Okay.
If that was office. I don't have the math for retail handy.
I'm sorry, no, that was my intent, was
rate.
the office, right?
But yeah, about 56,000 less than 1.4 million.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
And so just to summarize for everybody here, I want to, could you just briefly, in 2 sentences, 3 sentences, whatever, tell us, number one, what it is you're entitled to, right? What's already going through, and then what it is you're trying to get additionally here. Just because, again, I'll stop talking. Go ahead.
Right. So all of these 3 parcels already have the land use approval in terms of residential, et cetera, and we own and have the right to build 1.4 million square feet of office. I'm giving rough, 1.4 million square feet of office, about 90,000 square feet of retail, about 150 additional multifamily units, and I think we're done with our hotel development. So all of that exists, and all we are asking for, which is identical basically to what we did in 2015, is the ability to trade off, convert a little bit of these other uses to, instead of plopping an office building on the site, do another multifamily project.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So for the 1,100 units that you're entitled to, some of those have already been built. Or do you have 1,100 left?
No, we will raise the maximum to 1,100
of
multifamily. There's about 750 existing, so there are several multifamily developments that exist that have been successful. There's a nice blend of uses out there.
So what you're saying is the most you could build more is about 400?
If this cap is approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not 1,100 more, just 400?
No.
Okay, thank you. That was unclear. I appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you very much. My biggest concern has been mentioned many times is communicating with the neighbors. We heard it over and over tonight, that they haven't heard anything. There was no communication. So in between, now and second reading, to the best of your ability, reach out to them. And
Absolutely. I will get with you all if you could meet me outside and we'll exchange contact information. I'm happy to do that. Like I said, obviously they got the notice. I just really wish I would have, I think our notice list had over 800 and then some duplicate owners were over 600 noticed. And I need to submit this into the record for y'all, but I had one person contact me and they were not concerned.
All right, is there a motion to close?
Motion to close.
We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda, would you like?
You want to speak?
Did you want to speak, Mr. Jagger?
Wait,
Can I
we
say
have to
one
reopen
word?
the hearing. But the rebuttal period is over.
Yeah, I would say put where you're
I'm sorry, I didn't swear in, but I'll be glad to do it right now if I can.
The rebuttal period is over. There's
I can't
an
say anything.
opportunity at number 11 to speak, but this hearing's already concluded.
So,
All right, we have a motion to close. Councilmember Miranda, item number 10.
I'll read it, Mr. Chairman. Item number 10, file number REZ 24-23. Orders being presented for first reading consideration. Orders rezoning property in general vicinity of 8748 Hidden River Parkway, 14090 River Ridge Drive, and folio number 034776/1204 in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly in section 1 from zoning districts classification PDA, plan development alternative, to PDA, plan development alternative, office, business, professional, medical, research activity, clinic, retail, sales, hotel, residential, multifamily, and single-family attached, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Council, and the revision sheet, correct?
A revision sheet, yes, sir.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda and second from Councilmember Clendenin. Councilmember Vieira.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, and I want to explain my vote on this. So the way I interpret this right now is that there's a trade-off which doesn't necessarily increase the density, and I think that's, or the impact, I should say, density. And that's the greatest concern here that we have. It's funny, and I've heard Councilman Clendenin say this in the past. This is one where when I walked in here, I thought I was going to vote a certain way, and then after hearing the evidence, I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote. Because again, all of the things that I think the community, many of the things that the community finds objectionable are not in our control today. These things are happening. This is a very, very narrowly tailored request, which takes a small portion of this development, trades commercial for a tiny bit of residential with, as I interpret it, again, and we have second reading on this, there's no additional impact, density, et cetera. I always say on these land use cases, I don't like to write checks that are going to bounce to people. I say that in South Tampa, I say that in New Tampa, I say that all over because I'm an attorney and I look at things the way I look at things, and I'm not going to tell folks, hey, listen, I'm going to vote against this because this is terrible and they're going to do all these different things. These things are going to happen, and I don't want to put myself in a position to write a check that's going to bounce. I just don't like that. So again, as I see this, this is a very narrowly tailored trade-off, and what we're being asked to do is very narrowly tailored in terms of, in comparison to what's already going to happen. So again, since my dear friend, who I love so dearly, reached out to me on this and we didn't substantively speak on it, I did want to explain my rationale for it, so thank you.
Yes?
And I'm just going to say similarly, but I highly recommend there will be a second reading, and you can come back during second reading and let us know whether or not your questions were answered. And if you have a meeting space in your complex, it might be a good thing, and then just invite the neighbors. I think it'll also be a good way just to reinvigorate with the community. It sounds like it's been a long time since something's been built there, so it might be good for the new folks to really learn about the development.
Yes?
I just want to remind what we learned from staff tonight, because of this trade-off between the commercial and the residential. We learned tonight that the tree retention would go from, could have gone only 20%. Now they're going to have to retain 40 or 50. So that should be a win for the neighborhood as well. And again, so that's something that came to light during this hearing. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
All right, Ms. Johnson-Velez, this is item 11 that goes with item number 10.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. Item number 11 is a public hearing on a notice of proposed change to a development of regional impact. So Hidden River Parkway is what's called a development of regional impact. It's kind of a statutory type of development that was created back in the 80s, but in the last decade or so, the state legislature has pretty much gutted the statute that created DRIs and the DRI process. And so old DRIs like this are kind of being converted to local ordinances and local control. So review is strictly on a local basis at this point. What the developments of regional impact do is set a maximum level of development for the certain uses. So you talked about the different uses in here and the different levels of development. So right now, the maximum multifamily unit entitlement for this project is 900. And what this notice of proposed change is seeking to do is to increase that maximum potential to 1,100 units instead of just the 900. And so that would be effectuated through a trade-off mechanism if they in fact did go up to that maximum. So those are impacts that have already been taken into account through the maximum entitlements and then the operation of the trade-off mechanism. So that is what this is before you this afternoon or this evening with this notice of proposed change. And Ms. Donnelly can speak to it further if she would like or answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Please state your name.
Hi, Council. Catherine O'Donnelly Sternberg for the record. And so the scope of the notice of proposed change is substantially the same as the rezoning. There is kind of a bit of housekeeping in it because each time that we come in for an amendment, this is the 10th amendment. The last amendment was the 9th amendment in 2015. And so in the interim, as you may have seen with other GRIs, we have exercised extensions available to us for the expiration and build-out dates for the DRI, so those are incorporated into the document. But otherwise, that said, it's very straightforward.
Did the gentleman want to speak? Behind you?
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Taggart.
If you would
yes,
please raise your right hand and be sworn in.
Joe Taggart.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, sir.
I just want to make a couple comments that I didn't know we were going to have any objections tonight. Excuse my paralysis. But I bought this property in 1983 thinking I'd be out of it in 10 years, and here I am 43 years later. But this is the last site that we haven't sold. All the sites have been sold. So if we can put in the uplands that are there without disturbing any wetlands off us right now, that would create more traffic than putting the apartments that we're requesting tonight. The apartments are a great place for people that like to live, work, and play. We've got jogging trails and exercise facilities. It's a great development, and I know the traffic is bad on Fletcher. We had to pay the 4-lane Fletcher back in the 80s, and we had to pay millions and millions of dollars as an impact fee. We had to give a site to the fire department, which we did. And a few years ago, the fire department called me and said, we don't need it anymore. We've done a joint venture with Temple Terrace, and do you want to get it back? I said, well, yeah, we'd love to have the site back. He said, well, we're going to put it out for bid. I had to pay $361,000 to get a site back that I gave the fire department in the 80s. But anyway, my point is, what we could do right now with the uplands would create more traffic. We're not trying to create traffic. We're trying to create a wonderful work, play, and live in the same area. And it's turned out beautifully. We've got 170 acres along the Hillsborough River. It butts up to Lettuce Lake Park. I've tried to get somebody in the Parks Department to listen to me. We would like to donate that 170 acres to the city. We turned it to a mitigation bank years ago. The credits are all gone, and we own it. It's got a perpetual conservation easement for life. It's got 1.2 miles of frontage on the Hillsborough River. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'd love to donate to the Parks Department, but I can't even get anybody to respond to me. But I just want to give that comment because I've been involved with this project for 43 years. I bought it 43 years ago, and I think I was only 41 then, but thank you for your time.
I think you got a bunch of people who are going to jump on that.
You're going to be hearing from people.
Louis Vieira Park.
For that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I have worked with Mr. I've worked
Chairman,
with Mr. Taggart for 16 years, basically, and so I can speak personally to they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and everything has been very smooth anytime that we've come in and had a PDA amendment or a DRI and OPC come forward. So not expecting anything different.
Councilman Vera.
Thank you very much. So it's funny, I have two motions I'm making out of this quasi-judicial land use hearing that I'm gonna do after everything's finished. That's gonna be the second one. So, yeah, I'm gonna email my aide to calendar it whenever the appeal time is done, because obviously that's a very important issue. But again, as been said, I would, strongly suggest, again, the meeting with the folks here in the community. That's very, very important, because again, to get across the idea that what we're doing here is very, very narrowly tailored, it's very, very limited, it's a trade-off with no additional significant impact. And one thing I would, and again, this has no basis bearing on my vote, I say this because I can't talk to you about it outside, is take a look at Fire Station 24 and where that's going to be going, and talking with these good folks. That's all. That's all I'll say.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on essentially the same item?
Can I speak again?
Yeah, come on up, sir. Please state your name again.
Sure. Andy Rivero, again, just very briefly, I just want to say thank you, council, for asking several questions, which was my main thing, just more questions, use the staff that you have here, and I do recognize an incredible offer made by the gentleman and the ladies here representing the applicant. I think one thing, council, is that Councilwoman Hertak, we actually did, together as a community, host an event in our clubhouse to talk about this, because it was kind of confusing. As you guys have admitted, it's confusing, and this is your job. So you can imagine it took, I don't know how many of us were there, like 14, some on Zoom, just trying to put it together. So if we were off point, we were trying our best. We're trying our best to understand. We had a concern about the wildlife, of course, but we had other points. I'm personally happy with what they have said, and I would just like to continue correspondence, because I think, as previous parcels that were mentioned earlier, there wasn't a lot of public, I don't want to say backlash, because we're not backlashing against you, but there weren't as many people from the public objecting, because there was engagement. So a lot of questions that we would have had would have been mitigated, and maybe we wouldn't even have been here today to potentially extend this meeting later into the evening. So yes, if we can continue, and we'll be here for future meetings, whether on Zoom or in person, and if you could just keep asking us excellent questions and making the motions that you are, and we would definitely love to continue to engage, and I think we're satisfied. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? If not, I'll go to Dorota Masaryk, who is also online. She had spoken, and she's registered for this item as well. Is she online still? Okay, ma'am, if you wish to speak again, please state your name. Ma'am, would you like to speak?
Sorry, my mic was not working, but it's working now. No, I don't have any further comments. Thank you. I look forward to more information from the developer and the meeting that we will have in the future. I think it would probably really help for our community to understand what is happening. And I think knowing the timeline as well, that would be all very useful information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wait, sir, you want to speak? Come on up. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? If not, he'll be our last public comment speaker. Yes, sir, please state your name again.
Eddie Feliciano. Just to address this issue again, the lady had mentioned, she wished that she would have, spoken to us. This is the first time I see who she is. I've never had the opportunity to meet or see, or even know where to even try to find the right contacts to have this conversation. So I do appreciate you introducing the topics, and I really enjoy hearing you, and I can see what you stand for. So, I just want to echo what Andy said. We want to continue on the correspondence. But just for the record, like, if I knew who I could communicate with, I would have done it. I do it in my everyday life. It's part of what I do as a career. But I'm happy to meet you, and, we're all very involved in the community, and we're open to continuing correspondence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
We have a motion to close from Councilmember Clendenin. Uh-oh. Yes?
Oh, no, yes. Just to that gentleman's comments that, yeah, these things are very complicated, so I wouldn't beat yourself up over it at all. As part of the public, it's awful, frankly. So yes, I wouldn't beat yourself up. And let this be a representation of the wonderfully nice people I have in my district, including in New Tampa. Nice, I mean it, nice people.
This is a very nice disagreement agreement. It's very polite.
What are you trying to say about?
And I would offer, could I say one thing?
Don't start.
No inference, no inference.
Wait, let me push back just a bit.
What, yes, ma'am?
I just wanted to thank you all for the comments and for listening to the conversation. And I think my tip is that in the future, those, like the paper notice you get in the mail has a phone number and an email on it. Definitely don't try to kind of, you know, as Councilman Vieira said, some of these are especially complicated. And I think a PDA is actually, in a way, it's so simple because it's like a concept, a bubble, but I think that would make it a lot more complex to understand if you were just getting it in the mail or looking at a sign, because there's not, they don't produce a site plan that you would be able to just look at and quickly, you know, determine what this all means. So definitely next time call and try to set that up.
Any rebuttal, anything, you're good?
No, I think we're good.
All right,
Thank you so
motion
much.
closed from Councilman Clendenin, second from Councilman Miranda, all in favor? Aye. I forgot where I left off. Councilmember Henderson, item 11.
So do we, it's a public hearing, do we just close it?
Yeah, no, we have an ordinance
This is an
here.
ordinance.
Yeah, no, this is love.
It's not just a resolution, there's an
There is
ordinance.
there is
Go
an
ahead,
ordinance.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes.
So the motion.
Move an ordinance of the City of Tampa approving a 10th Amendment to a development order rendered pursuant to 5 Chapter 380, Florida statute for the Hidden River Corporate 6 Park, a development of regional impact, DRI number 108, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Is there a problem? The hearing is closed, sir. We closed the hearing. The hearing is closed.
Before you leave, everybody, excuse me. This is on first reading consideration. This is not final till it comes back for second reading and adoption hearing. That will be announced by the clerk after the vote.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
Now you can leave.
Last item of the night, item number 12.
Right, save the Euclidean for last. Sam Thomas Development Coordination. Agenda item number 12 is REZ 2437. Request to rezone 1505 West Arch Street from RS Residential Single Family 50 to Residential Multifamily 18. I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. We've traveled to West Tampa. This is in the West Tampa Urban Village within the West Riverfront neighborhood. We are east of North Rome Avenue, south of Interstate 275. East side of North Rome Avenue is pretty much residential. The west side of North Rome Avenue is probably, I describe it as more commercial in character, but this is the subject site along West Arch Street. So along North Rome Avenue, this is urban mixed use 60. We have community commercial 35 to the north, and this whole block where the subject site is and everything around it is brown, and that's residential 20. So even though the area might not, it might be developed as primarily single family, and it does currently have a single family zoning, and that might be the predominant character. This is planned for a higher residential development pattern at 20 dwelling units an acre, which is typically single family attached, duplex, townhome style type of development. That might just not have occurred yet, but that is what's on the future land use map as the intent for this area. So what you're seeing with this zoning is a request for the residential multifamily 18 zoning district, which would kind of unlock what we had planned for when this map was created for this area. So that's a long way of saying it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, because it's going to increase the development potential on the site, and it's going to move it into a zoning district that's really furthering the long-range goal of the plan to put more housing at an appropriate scale in this area of the city. Also, it's in the West Tampa Urban Village, and the plan directs the greatest share of growth to urban villages, and so that's really where we want to see a lot of this growth occur. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Same West Development Coordination. Per usual, we will start out with the aerial and zoning map. So you can see the subject site outlined in red here on West Arch Street. On this segment of arch between Oregon and Rome Avenue, it's predominantly single-family detached, but I did wanted to point out that like the two parcels directly abutting the subject site are developed with semi-detached uses. There's 4 units there. There's a single-family detached, and then after the single-family detached is another 2 semi-detached units. So there is some, while it is RS50 zoning, there is some older multifamily mixed in within the area. And then as you get towards where Jim pointed out that UMU 60 future land use is, you have IG and CI zoning. So at the intersection of Arch and Rome, you have a manufacturing use and then some commercial uses as well. Then as you go to the north, you have Interstate 275, the West River development here. And then as you move south, you have some larger multifamily development and single-family attached uses here. Since this is a Euclidean zoning, there is no site plan or elevations. So I'll show you some subject photo sites. So this is on West Arch Street looking west. As you can see that from the aerial, and I'll show real quick on the aerial, it's 2 vacant lots, they're right next to each other. It is just for the vacant lot that is abutting the other existing duplexes or semi-detached units. So, you can kind of imagine a line somewhere around here for where it's 2 separate properties. That's the semi-detached uses there. This is looking north from Arch Street at the subject site. So, think about it, split it in half, maybe a little bit less or more, give or take. This is looking south from the subject site at the single-family detached uses on the opposite side. This is looking further west down Arch Street. You can see those semi-detached structures and then the single-family structure there. Here's a better view of the semi-detached structures, single-family, and then more semi-detached there. This is looking south across the street. You have single-family, and then this is either semi-detached or attached. And then this is facing east on West Arch Street. You can see the subject site here. So when considering the size of the property, the requested residential multifamily 18 zoning district will allow for a maximum of 2 dwelling units on the subject site. Additionally, the maximum building height of the RM18 zoning district is 35 feet, which is the same as the residential single-family zoning district. So it's anticipated that the requested zoning district will have minimal to no impacts on the surrounding uses, and it's compatible with the development pattern and character of this segment of West Arch Street. Development and coordination staff find the request consistent with applicable development regulations. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? No? Thank you very much. Yes, sir, go ahead, please state your name.
James Lascara. Good evening, council. I am the owner of the property. I want to say first that I live right down the street, 2 blocks away on Grace Street. I'm a big believer in supporting my own neighborhood and seeing it improve from within. So that's part of my vision overall for this project, and that's what's got me excited about this. So I've been active duty in the Navy for 14 years, and so I think I understand the importance of being responsible with resources. And I'm transitioning out of active military service over the next year. So I would view this as me applying the same focus, determination, and leadership to use resources to pour into our local community, starting with a project like this. So this rezoning is a reflection of that vision. Investing resources for responsible growth in the neighborhood is definitely a priority of mine, and land use is one of these resources. I realize we're in the West Tampa Overlay District, so I should mention we plan on complying with all the guidelines for that overlay district. I want to mention I have 11 emails that people included me on for voices of support for this project, so I don't see a lot of people that I think are going gonna stand up and oppose it, but, I'm happy to read some of them off if that would help. I have them here with me if they can be added to the record. And then I did wanna show one thing on the map. It's just a color coding of, let's see. So in orange, the green is our site, and in orange are sites that are basically the same thing that we're trying to do. So they're semi-attached. So you have two right next to each other, and then one on the neighbor, or sorry, go one more, and then one further down. But what you'll find is from LaSalle, every block for 4 blocks, there's at least one of them. So I view this as being very conforming to the overall neighborhood, and very appropriate for the neighborhood, as the staff mentioned. So I'm excited about this project, and I appreciate your consideration to approve it.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Nope. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? Come on up, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Asad Sheikh. I live at 1322 West Grace Street, about 2 blocks south of the project. Support the project wholeheartedly. We need additional density, and this is probably the best place in town for it with the big investment in the Julian Lane Riverfront Park. I think we need more projects like this. Typically, developers or builders will put up a large single-family home on these sites, and I'm excited to see that somebody's finally rezoning them appropriately, and I hope to see more projects like this, so I support.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Anybody else? Any rebuttal, sir, that you'd like to add, or you're good?
And did you want the letters in the record if you like, if you wanted to,
If you want to submit them.
If you,
Sure. I printed them out, so.
pardon?
I printed them out, so sure.
Yeah, if you want to give them to the attorney. We have a
Thank
motion
you.
closed from Councilmember Clendenin. Do we have a second? Second, Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Henderson, would you like to read it? It's, last item, number.
I move file number REZ 2437, an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1505 West Arch Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS 50 residential single family to RM 18 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. located at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Carlson, do you have any new business?
Yeah, last week in new business, there was an item that I had to recuse myself, so I'd like to make a motion to receive and file my Form AB, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Second from Miranda. Okay.
Councilmember Hurtak.
Thank you. From earlier this morning, allowing repeat applications within a year is costly in staff, neighborhood, and council time. Since rezonings are costly and complicated, the costs borne by developers are ultimately passed on to home buyers or renters. This amendment will encourage developers to get it right the first time. So currently, Chapter 27-150 states that denial of rezoning applications by City Council filed under this section shall preclude consideration of the zoning applications for the same zoning classification sought by the denied application involved in the same lands or any portion thereof for a period of 12 months from the date of denial. However, the zoning administrator may waive the 12-month period. I move that we amend Chapter 27-150 to remove the zoning administrator's ability to waive the 12-month waiting period for any reason, and I request that this amendment travel with other July cycle code amendments.
Boom. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, no.
Motion carries.
If we can have that announced, please.
Motion carried unanimously?
No.
No?
Clendenin
Oh, he
voting
said
no.
no? Okay, so,
I'm the curmudgeon. I'm the Charlie Miranda.
Motion carried with Clendenin voting no.
Councilmember Vieira?
Yes, sir, thank you. Yes, so my understanding, Councilman Hurtak, is that comes back and then we have it for consideration.
Yeah, so no, this is,
Wait, so, okay, let me clarify, maybe I misunderstood. So you're saying it'll come to us instead of the zoning administrator?
No, this is in the July
no,
cycle.
so what it does is it, instead of the zoning administrator, because the wording is, adequately, addresses the grounds and substantial changes, so this just takes it all away.
Okay, so is there, with your intent, I know we're gonna get a second reading, just so I know, with your intent, is it to period blank, they can never come back, or
No,
can they come
it's
before us?
12 months.
12 months.
It's
Okay,
12 months.
But 12 months, they can't come back and ask for an exception, like say there was something extraordinary or something?
No, because generally there won't be, I mean, if it's extraordinary, if it's a completely different project, it's different.
Right.
But really what,
Isn't that subject-
but
isn't that
but the
interpretation?
goal is
By
to
Aaron,
get
I wish
it
I could go
right.
with-
The goal is to get it right the first
I
time.
understand.
And a lot of times developers will push the envelope and then not get what they want. Well, they need to get it right the first time.
Right.
They need to work with the community. I mean, we've seen this over and over again. And I was on my prep meeting last night and I was told that Bayshore is coming back. And I don't know when that is, but that's frustrating because it's been less than 12 months. Anyway,
Ms. Wells?
so.
Just for clarification, the comment yesterday about Bayshore coming back, that's a completely different project.
Okay,
It's not
good
one
to know.
I've seen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good stuff.
So we have a motion, we have a second, and Pat, and your no is?
I'm a no, it's just still a no.
That's why we have it announced, just so you know why we have it announced.
She did
Is
announce.
to make sure, I know that, but we just need to get in the habit of allowing the clerk to announce the vote, just that the record is clear, so it reflects. This is only to travel with the July cycle, so it'll come back through workshop and then sending to the planning, so you'll have the
Yeah, I
opportunity. to
mean,
see
we
what it
could
is.
amend it then, but I just want to get it on
Okay,
the
I
July
understand.
cycle.
I understand.
Councilmember Clendenin, you
I
have.
do. I have a few motions from the planning commission. A request by the planning commission setting an adoption hearing for TA CPA 2403, TA CPA 2408, TA CPA 2409, and TA CPA 2410 on August 29th, 2024 at 5:01 PM and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with a form of notice for advertising the public hearing.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
A request by the planning commission to remove, does she have to read that, I guess, to declare the vote before I read? Okay. A request by the planning commission to remove TA CPA 2318 from the August 29th, 2024, 5:01 PM adoption public hearing.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye. And a request by the planning commission setting an adoption hearing for TA CPA 2411 on September 26, 2024 at 5:01 PM and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with the form of notice for advertising the public hearing.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that it?
That's it.
From me, just a happy Father's Day to Mr. Shelby, Mr. Carlson, Mr. Clendenin, myself, Vieira, and Miranda, and all the fathers out there. So enjoy your Sunday.
Who's your
it from
daddy?
me. And Junior, your dad? Happy Father's Day. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. This morning during public comment, a contractor came up with two other individuals who were contractors about the infill lots. And so although I did not give them an opportunity to continue to beyond public comment, well, I gave the option for the other person to speak for clarification and he chose not to. But I am kind of concerned when I dived into it a little bit. The process seems to be a lottery system and it's kind of like a hodgepodge of who can get these infill lots. So really my question is kind of a neophyte question. Who do we direct that to so that we can get information on this process that
Staff.
I would just
say staff.
Oh, always stick with staff and then they.
Somebody will bite.
Somebody will come to you.
I see. Okay. So
Miss Wells might be able to know though. Miss Wells might be able to direct you.
Miss
You
Wells
don't know?
does not. She's zoning. Okay. Okay. So I just any other thoughts on that?
Your microphone, sir.
The way it is, it's supposed to be land to somebody to grab it, build on it, develop it, and then everything's fine. But as I understand what's happening, an individual comes, it's not a developer.
Yeah, right.
And they get appointed, they get the lot, and then they hire a developer to build. That's what I understood.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that doesn't seem right.
Isn't that done by an RFP?
But I don't know.
They don't do that through RFPs?
I don't know.
I think it's worth, I met with him also, I think you all did, but I think it's worth putting on the agenda for some point, just for clarification discussion, because we don't want to, you know, since I met him a week ago, he's now in crutches, I don't know what happened, but we don't want to discourage entrepreneurs like that from going after city business. I mean, he's been in business since the 90s, it seems to be
Right.
successful.
Well, the conflict seems to be that there are people who, like a real estate company can ask for it, people that don't have any experience. He put up a Florida statute, you know, regarding who can be in the contracting business and doing, building properties. But, so I would.
August 22nd is.
Thank you. I motion that, and prior to phase 3 coming forward, I move that we have city staff come before us to address in detail the plans regarding
Contracting.
infill lots,
Awarding
infill lots. And
Second.
Thank you.
on August 22nd.
On August 22nd, 2024.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson with a second from Councilmember Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
And can you clarify, are you wanting staff to be in person?
Yeah, oh, definitely in person, no memos.
That's right.
Well, I would prefer.
Can I do an amendment to say a memo and?
A memo and?
Just so we can have some background knowledge before we talk about it?
That would be nice. Okay,
That's great.
that would be appropriate.
That's for August 22nd. In person and a memo.
Yeah, whoever this staff may be.
That's
And if
right.
you reveal yourself early, I would greatly appreciate that.
Reveal yourself.
Who is that person behind the
Whoever
curtain?
is responsible.
Behind the curtain.
Councilmember Vieira.
Yes, sir. I didn't think I had any, but actually I do have one. I forgot. On Sunday, I talked to former Judge E.J. Salsinas about something that he's very, very passionate about, the late Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez. Next September, it'll be 75 years since he gave all for our country. He's one of 3 Medal of Honor recipients for our area, along with Ronald Ray and Paul Ray Smith. And I think that next year for the 75th anniversary, we ought to get a conversation started now on something to commemorate him. And Judge Salsinas and I talked about a statue. So, and I think that would be awesome.
Well, let me ask you a question. I know where he's buried.
Yes.
And, you know, it's always decorated with American flags, but it's a simple marker.
Yes, yeah.
Perhaps get permission from the cemetery to do something there.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, I mean, considering it's, you know, it's open to the public and people can view
Absolutely.
it, so.
Yeah, and so that's a great idea. I was thinking maybe, well, I won't get into it, but yes, sir, that's wonderful. So I love that a lot. Yeah, no, and it's great, and that people pass by it and don't know he's buried there with his mom and his dad. It's awesome. So,
And there's a lot of notable Tampa people buried
sure.
surrounding him, so it's, you know.
So if I may, I laugh. On August 1st, to have staff, I don't know who would, I may have to amend it for whoever, first, is it? Okay, then let's do, how about August 22nd? Thank you, yes, ma'am. So let's do August 22nd. Again, I don't know, I'll find out what staff person would have to come and I may amend it for that. But there you go, I'm like, shut up here. Okay.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira with a second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Did you say August 22nd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there you go.
Councilmember Miranda.
I don't have any, but I won't take 10 minutes.
Go ahead, sir. You have
There's
10
not
minutes.
one person on this dais that would doubt that. Not one of us would doubt that.
Move to receive and file?
Receive and file, yes.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Hurtak. All in favor? Aye.
Happy Father's Day, y'all.
Thank you.
All y'all.